Kanye West has arguably one of the greatest discographies, not just in hip-hop, but in any musical category ever. When people talk about Ye as a rapper, they don't bring up the lyricism or even the production when talking about his greatest strength. His greatest strength has always been his discography, his massive catalog of classic albums that have shaped the way hip-hop is today. So today we will be going over every, and I mean every single Kanye West album, from old videos on the channel to new content. We'll be going over everything there is to know about Ye albums, while also including some bonus content at the end. But with all that out of the way, this is every single Kanye West album explained. Everyone's story has a beginning. Sometimes it's forgettable, other times it's so bold and outrageous we just have to pay attention. But there are some instances where the beginning of the story is already set in stone, that an artist has put so much time, so much effort into their craft that they knew before anyone else that chapter 1 was going to change the game. The College Dropout did just that, and more. It's more than just game changing. Every time I press play on this album, I can hear the blood, sweat, and tears that Kanye put into this project, the hard work and dedication, the countless summers Kanye spent making beats just for the sliver of hope that his big break would come. Now, The College Dropout honestly feels like a lifetime ago because, well, it kind of is. The album released 21 years ago and marked the beginning of a career filled with astounding highs and staggering lows. So join me as I look back on the making of one of the greatest debut albums of all time, the creation of The College Dropout. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time on Kanye's career before Rockefeller because by now we all pretty much know the story, but it's still important to get some background. Before Yeezy got his big break, he was really only known as a producer. Kanye's signature style was pitching up old soulful songs to create something brand new. It would become known as the chipmunk sound, or more commonly, the soul sample. Kanye caught his biggest break as a producer when he had the opportunity to show off his beats to Jay-Z, who at the time was one of, if not the biggest rapper in the world. It led to Ye having the opportunity of a lifetime to produce on Hov's upcoming album, The Blueprint. Takeover, Heart of the City, Never Change, Izzo, and Girls, Girls, Girls Part 2 were all produced by Yeezy, and not a lot of people know this, but he actually sings the chorus on Never Change.
Out hustling, same clothes for days. I never change, I'm too stuck in my ways.
His production work led to Rockefeller reluctantly signing him on as an artist, mainly because they wanted to keep him as a producer. But just 2 weeks after putting the pen to the ink, something would happen that would not only change the course of Kanye's career, but his life. One late night in 2002, Kanye was exiting from an exhausting recording session. It was 3 in the morning. He fell asleep in his rented Lexus and crashed into an oncoming vehicle, shattering his jaw in 3 separate places. Amazingly, Kanye was somehow not charged for the crash, but production on his debut album was going to have to be delayed because his mouth was wired shut. Or so it seemed. Just 2 weeks after the accident, Kanye started recording for Through the Wire, his debut single that would help put him on the map. Little fun fact about this song, Kanye's first recordings for this track are so mangled and inaudible because, well, his mouth was wired shut, so he actually re-recorded the entire song after his mouth was not wired shut and layered the vocals.
That right there could drive a sane man berserk. Not to worry, Mr. Ace of the Izzles back to Wizard.
That right there could drive a sane man berserk. Not to worry, Mr. Ace of the Izzles back to Wizard.
This was a huge moment for Kanye. The College Dropout was a chance for Kanye to not just be seen as a producer, but as a rapper. And Kanye actually mentions on the song Spaceship how long he's been working and grinding for this opportunity.
Dude, lock yourself in a room doing 5 beats a day for 3 summers. That's a different world like 3 summers.
It was time to use those 3 summers to his advantage. Kanye used his connections as a producer to get A-list celebrities and high-end talent to appear on his album. From Common, Jay-Z, and Twista to the likes of Jamie Foxx, Kanye was putting all his eggs in one basket. He was going all in on this one project. 21 songs ended up making the final cut for The College Dropout, but there was so much material to choose from Kanye's mixtape days to the studio sessions for the album. There were a lot of high quality songs that just simply didn't make the cut. From old track list surfacing, we can see some of the songs that were supposed to originally be on the album, such as the unreleased track My Way.
It go my way, shy way, this way or the highway. Shots to lay you off on your day off like Friday.
There were actually a couple songs that Kanye originally planned for the album, but instead stashed away and saved for his sophomore project, Late Registration. These include Hey Mama and 18 Years, which would turn into Gold Digger. Hey Mama actually made it pretty far into the production of The College Dropout, as Kanye actually mentioned some of the lyrics of Hey Mama on Jesus Walks.
I know I act a fool, but I promise you I'm going back to school. Well, mama, I know I act the fool, but I'll be gone to November. I got packs to move.
As you already know, this album and its sophomore successor are filled with skits, all of which are done by comedian DeRay Davis, who Kanye still admires to this day. Kanye's debut album was actually much different than what hip-hop was in its current landscape. Hip-hop in the early 2000s was still filled with the gangster rap that was ushered in by the early 90s. Instead, The College Dropout has really none of those and instead harps on themes such as family, religion, and personal struggle, and these are themes that Kanye would carry with him throughout his career. So after all those late nights making beats, all the phone calls, the record deal drama, and even a classic Kanye album delay, The College Dropout released on February 10th, 2004. And it was probably the best debut Kanye could ever ask for. The album sold 441,000 units first week, debuting at the #2 spot on the Billboard charts and jump-started one of the greatest careers of all time. Despite releasing some of the best albums in hip-hop after this project, there's a decent amount of people who consider The College Dropout to be the best album in Ye's discography. And that's for a reason. The heart, soul, and energy that courses through this album is one like no other. Take It All Falls Down, for example. Originally, Ye wanted to sample Lauryn Hill, but that fell through, so instead of giving up, he got Selena Johnson to do the hook, and the rest is history. And 22 years later, that moment came full circle when Miss Hill herself performed the song with Ye at SoFi Stadium. Some of Ye's most underrated songs are on this album. Jay-Z's debut on a Kanye album with Never Let Me Down, the introspective Family Business, and one of my favorite Ye songs of all time, Spaceship. The thing that separated this album from a lot of other albums at the time was just how relatable it was. I mean, I remember as a high schooler working my first retail job, listening to Spaceship and hearing Ye talk about how he was gonna get out of his retail job and go do what he wanted to do in life, and that's inspiring. And who can forget one of the most iconic outros in hip-hop with Last Call? While it is a 20-minute yap session, it's one that I personally can't skip when it comes on, as a young Kanye tells the story of how he found his way in music and the trials and tribulations along the way. The same year that The College Dropout released, Ye got straight to work on his sophomore album, Late Registration. Late Registration builds on the foundations built by its predecessor while not just being The College Dropout Part 2. While Kanye continued to sample old soul music, the iconic chipmunk sound that was featured all over The College Dropout is gone and replaced with orchestral music composed by music icon John Bryan. While Bryan was initially hesitant to sign on to the project as he had never done anything related to hip-hop before, Kanye's originality actually helped with the process. Quote, "There are colors and ideas that make the album different from average hip-hop, but Kanye is already different from the average hip-hop guy. He's got this sense of pop record making which is really solid, and he likes tracks with a lot of things going on in them, which is not necessarily common for hip-hop. He was already barking up that tree." Without Bryan, we would not have had the Late Registration that we have today. In fact, by the end of 2004, Kanye had about 75% of the album done, but he listened and he didn't really like the final project, so he completely changed script and brought Bryan on board, and the rest is history. The orchestral music is the heart of Late Registration. The soulful sounds of The College Dropout are replaced with beautiful horns. The regular hip-hop beats replaced with somber strings. It's a refreshing take on the genre. During this time period, Ye was also executive producing Common's 2005 classic B, and Com had a certain vision for the album, which led to some tracks not making the cut. One of those throwaways is My Way Home, which appears on Late Registration. No Kanye, just Common. Kanye loved that song so much that he didn't want to waste it, so he put it on his album instead. A multitude of songs on the album were actually conceived before Kanye started working on Late Registration, like the already mentioned Gold Digger and Hey Mama, along with Bring Me Down, which actually made its first appearance all the way back in 2001 on Kanye's mixtape The Prerequisite. Late Registration released on August 30th, 2005, and sold over 860,000 units in its first week, easily making it one of the best-selling albums of that year. It debuted on the #1 spot in the Billboard charts and stayed there for 2 straight weeks. As for the actual songs, this album features some of Ye's best songwriting to date, and some deep concepts as well. The intro song, Heard Him Say, was actually the first song recorded for the album. Common famously told a story where he was offered the beat, and after he declined, Ye wrote the entire track in 15 minutes and went to record. Originally, it was Kanye singing the chorus before he heard Adam Levine rehearsing at the Grammy Awards. He then asked the singer to be on the track. We Major features a collaboration between Ye and Nas. It's one of my personal favorite songs of all time, as it features 2 of my personal favorite rappers of all time. And something I've always found interesting about this album is that it released just a few years after the notorious beef between Nas and Jay-Z. And this album features both Nas and Jay-Z, with Hove appearing on Diamonds from Sierra Leone, one of the most introspective songs on the entire album, and that's saying something. The song was originally just a song about Ye's friendships within his crew, but after hearing about the civil war in Sierra Leone due to Conflict Diamonds, Ye took out the pen and went to work. Hey Mama and Roses are 2 more songs that see Ye get very introspective, with the former being a love letter of appreciation to his mother Donda West, and the latter being about a near-death experience his grandmother faced during Kanye's rise to fame. The track Celebration, which features a 20-set orchestra performance, actually had some creative differences between Ye and Brian. And the first of the many conflicts with that song is that the actual orchestra had trouble getting through the song because they kept laughing at Kanye's lyrics. Originally, Brian layered the track with keyboard notes just for Kanye to remove the keys in the beat entirely and reconstruct the entire song, with Brian's contributions being held to just the chorus. But we've all listened to Celebration, and I like the song the way it is, so I guess it worked. The outro Late is another underrated track that is actually a hidden track, at least on the CD released, as it wasn't featured on the track list. The album won Best Rap Album of the Year at the 2006 Grammys, being Ye's 2nd consecutive album to achieve the feat, but it wouldn't be his last. Graduation is an album you're probably very familiar with. Apart from 15-year-olds spamming He Made Graduation on your timeline every time Kanye did something controversial, Graduation served as yet another stepping stone for Kanye's illustrious career. While Late Registration was defined by its orchestral scores, Graduation swapped all that out for synthesizers. These sample choices were not just old soul music similar to Late Registration and The College Dropout, as Kanye expanded his reach to cover house, rock, and even pop. While Ye's 2 previous albums were filled with skits and interludes, Kanye decided for Graduation to trim all of it down, as the album was just 14 tracks long. Although originally, Graduation did have 2 interludes planned for the album, but for whatever reason, Kanye decided to scrap them. After the release of Late Registration, Kanye got straight to work on Graduation. He started listening to songs by country artists like Bob Dylan and Johnny Cash to get better at his wordplay and storytelling. And during the lead up to the release of Graduation, Ye found himself in a sales war with 50 Cent and his album Curtis, which was set to release on the same day. It was a battle of old versus new, the old gangster rap of the 90s and the early 2000s versus a wave of sounds curated by Kanye and other young hip-hop artists in the come-up. And we all know how that battle ended. Graduation's iconic artwork was created by Japanese artist Takashi Murakami. It features the Dropout Bear ascending from scholarly life, hence the Graduation. Graduation released in 2007 and sold 957,000 units in its first week, easily making it the most of Ye's career. And the music was almost immediately cemented in hip-hop history, with songs like Flashing Lights and Can't Tell Me Nothing almost instantly hitting the radio airwaves. And while Ye may have gone a different route in terms of sampling choices, it may have just made the album even more iconic. Stronger, sampling Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger by Daft Punk was an immaculate choice. Rather than a sample, it feels like a remix to an already classic song. And don't get me started with I Wonder. Sampling a song called My Song and making it yours is beyond irony. Good Life sampling PYT is iconic at this point. In fact, Ye is currently doing the sample chop live at his concerts where he breaks down the sample from PYT into Good Life. It's also nice to know that Michael himself approved as he was alive when the sample was cleared. And the sample chop for Champion is iconic and instantly recognizable. I mean, it's a special song for me as I thoroughly enjoy Champion, and Steely Dan, the artist that was sampled for that song, is one of my favorite bands of all time. But it actually took Ye a lot to even get that sample cleared in the first place. A lot more than you'd think. It took a handwritten letter from Kanye himself in order to get this sample cleared. Champion, the second track off of Graduation, has a noticeable sample from Steely Dan's 1976 song Kid Charlemagne. Have a listen.
Did you realize that you were a champion in their eyes? Yes, I did. So I packed it up and brought it back to the crib.
The sample is so integral to not only the song itself, but the actual lyrics. It's actually quite hard to imagine this song without the sample, and back in 2007, that seemed like that was going to be the case. When Kanye sent the sample in for clearance, Steely Dan members Donald Fagen and Walter Becker heard it, and they didn't really like what Kanye had done with it, so they rejected the request. Now normally, an artist would simply give up after being rejected like that, especially from the sample owners themselves, but for Kanye, it was personal. You see, he would explain in an interview with Spin that the song and the sample reminded him about his relationship with his father. One of my producers, Brian Alday Miller, made that track, Kanye said. I heard it and was overwhelmed. Me and my father's relationship is a little strained, so when I started writing on the track, something came out of me to speak on that, to say in the end that my father was a champion in my eyes, even with our ups and downs. So Kanye actually sent Becker and Fagen a handwritten letter about the sample and his relationship with his father, describing how much the song had meant to him. And that made all the difference. The sample was cleared, and we got a classic track in Champion. Even the deeper cuts on Graduation are straight bangers. You have great storytelling tracks like Homecoming or Big Brother, which is about his relationship with Jay-Z that really speaks to his evolution in narration. I guess those Johnny Cash and Bob Dylan sessions really did pay off. While the album can essentially be considered a greatest hits compilation, it isn't without its low points as well, like a Barry Bonds with Lil Wayne. Kanye's part on Barry Bonds is actually pretty decent, but surprisingly it's when Wayne comes in where the song takes a dip. It's lazy and uninspiring, and it's the most phone-it-in verse I've ever heard in my life. He sounds like he's asleep. And Drunken Hot Girls is, well, it's a good song if you plug your ears and don't actually listen to what the artists are talking about. I'm so sorry, Mos Def, for your wasted performance. Graduation is Kanye's most popular album by far. It's amassed over 9 billion streams, with a billion of those coming from this year alone. It's cemented as one of hip-hop's defining moments of the 2000s, and an album that will continue to inspire artists for generations to come. It earned Ye his third consecutive Rap Album of the Year award at the Grammys, pulling him to the peak of his powers. But as they say, as soon as you reach the top, they try to pull you back down. Originally, the Dropout trilogy was supposed to be a quadrilogy, with the fourth installment being Good Ass Job. But in between album releases, Kanye's life turned upside down, and it affected the music. Donda West died due to complications from surgery, and Kanye split from his fiancée Alexis Pfeiffer. So much tragedy happened all at once that it struck like a knife straight to the chest. Good Ass Job was scrapped, and Kanye began working on an entirely new project that would be able to convey the emotions that he was feeling. Instead of a focused rap album, Kanye wanted to take a more pop approach, something that could get the melodies that were stuck in his head out to the world. Recording sessions for 808s and Heartbreak took place in California and Hawaii, with most of the recording process being handled by the Roland TR-808 machine, which is how the title 808s and Heartbreak came to be. This was the first project that Kanye and Kid Cudi joined forces, and Cudi's presence can be felt all over this project, from Welcome to Heartbreak all the way through to the end. In fact, Ye has credited Cudi over the years for essentially creating the entire atmosphere for this project. Public perception was a bit mixed, as critics and fans did not like the direction that Kanye went in, with the auto-tune and the pop-focused melody album rather than a more grittier hip-hop album, which was what Kanye was known for. But most of the general public didn't really give a shit about any of that, as 808 still sold 450,000 units first week, and songs like Heartless became iconic songs in Kanye's catalog. Even Michael Jackson liked the album, as in 2015, his daughter Paris said that Michael would play the album for her all the time. The album sees an array of emotions and beats, from the somber notes of a Welcome to Heartbreak or Say You Will to an upbeat sound of a Paranoid, but some of the best songs on this album are the more simpler ones, like a Streetlights or a Heartless. Streetlights is simple yet effective, with a chorus that keeps you listening all the way through. And Heartless, as I already mentioned, is one of Ye's most recognizable songs of all time. And if you've seen any clips from a Kanye show, you know how iconic it is, with crowds chanting the intro to that song with no background music at all. But despite being able to convey his emotions through music, Donda's death still weighed heavy on Kanye, the culmination of which being the 2009 VMA Awards, where a little bottle of Hennessy caused a lot of trouble. That moment changed things forever, and it led to one of the greatest albums of all time. After the aftermath of the VMAs, Ye went on a self-isolation to Japan in an attempt to clear his mind and get back on the right path. Kanye realized that if he were able to make a comeback, it needed to be the greatest comeback of all time, so he knew that he needed to make one of the greatest albums of all time. So he went straight to work after he got his head right and went from Japan back to Hawaii to record what many would describe as his magnum opus. When word got around that Kanye was back to cooking again, collaborators from across the country went back to Hawaii to work on My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. Recording for Dark Fantasy was notoriously rigorous, with Kanye himself not sleeping at all during the process, instead opting to take 90-minute power naps at a time. Anyone in the studio was required to wear a suit, and there's a famous picture of all the rules that were in place in the studio that everyone had to follow, such as no tweeting or no photos. Sessions were infamous for how many man-hours it took to make some of these songs, the 5,000 hours it took for Power, how Nicki Minaj had to re-record her verse on Monster 3 times, the 14 artists that are credited for vocals on All the Lights. This album had to be perfect. Pusha T recalled an incident where a song for the album leaked online, and Ye went on a rant saying how they would have to start working from hotel rooms if this continued to happen, which funnily enough he would end up doing for albums such as Watch the Throne, Donda, and Vultures 1. Famously, in anticipation for this album, Ye started a new weekly release series called Good Fridays, where he'd release one song a week up until the actual album release. This could be songs that didn't make the cut for the album, or remixes of songs on Dark Fantasy. It was interesting. Dark Fantasy is famous for its multiple album covers, one featuring the Dropout Bear, another with a ballerina, and the main cover The main cover was created by George Kondo, and Kanye described it as wanting his cover to be so provocative that it had to be banned from retail stores. And that's exactly what happened, as if you buy or stream the album cover, it's pixelated, and the current physical release features the ballerina cover. The album was a smashing success, debuting at number 1 and selling nearly 500,000 units first week. Tracks from this album are some of the most iconic in Kanye's entire discography. Gorgeous features one of Ye's best rapping performances ever, with a great hook from Cudi and a solid feature from Raekwon. Power and All the Lights feel like worldwide events with how grandiose they sound, and Devil in a New Dress might just be my favorite Kanye song of all time. Hell, Rick Ross knew it was so good he made his own music video just for his part of the song.
Unless we forget Runaway, which is probably Ye's most popular and iconic song to date. My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy might have the best reputation out of any Kanye album. It's consistently put in debates for best rap album of all time, and is seemingly always in the top spots on any hip-hop album list. Even the quote-unquote bad songs still slap. Like, I swear to God, if one more person tells me that Hell of a Light is a skip, they're getting bitch slapped, I'm sorry. While the album isn't flawless, it might just be the closest thing to that. How do you top the album that most consider to be your greatest ever? Well, collab with your mentor Jay-Z, of course. The idea for a joint collab between Hov and Ye actually went all the way back to the My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy era, after the remix of Power featuring Jay-Z leaked online. After officially posting that Power remix online, Kanye announced that he and Jay would be releasing a 5-song album titled Watch the Throne, and that Monster was originally planned for the project but stayed on Dark Fantasy instead. When Kanye and Jay-Z announced that they were working on an album together, excitement and expectations were through the roof. In October of 2010, Ye announced that the project had expanded into a full-fledged album. In 2011, Jay truly explained what the phrase "Watch the Throne" actually meant. It's just protecting the music and the culture. It's people that's in the forefront of the music. Watch the throne, like protect it. You just watch how popular music shifts and how hip-hop basically replaced rock and roll as the youth music. The same thing can happen to hip-hop. It can be replaced by other forms of music. So it's making sure that we put the effort into making the best product so we can contend with all this other music. With dance music that's dominating the charts right now, and indie music that's dominating the festivals. While Ye already had a few songs prepared for Watch the Throne that were made during the Dark Fantasy era, like The Joy and That's My Bitch, most of the songs for Watch the Throne were created during 2010 and 2011. There were also 2 songs from the Watch the Throne sessions that would end up being on Jay-Z's studio album, Magna Carta Holy Grail, that being Oceans and Holy Grail. Kanye and Jay often had arguments about the vision for this album. While they both understood there was no mailing in the performances for this type of joint, they both had different ideas of where the project should go. After the lead single Ham failed to capture the ears of the public in January 2011, Jay said that the song would likely not make the cut for the final album and that a change in production would be taking place. Most of the tracks that were created during the early sessions for Watch the Throne didn't end up making the final album, and most of the songs that did make the cut were created during 2011. The approach for these recording sessions was entirely hands-on, as producer Hitboy, who made the iconic beat about the 2 guys in Paris, said in an interview. There was music going on in every room. I had a room where I was cranking out beats, and then I go into the main room with Jay and Kanye and play beats for them. Kanye is really hands-on. I would come in with a beat and he'd be like, take this out, slow it down, and it would sound 100 times better. Jay would then mumble different flows to the beat. The hype was totally there. I mean, for God's sakes, when Funk Flex premiered Otis and cut the song and rewound the song like 25 times and then gave us the most iconic speech probably ever.
New York City, you listen to me. If you're near a convenience store right now, any type of 24-hour store, go into the store right now and put your hand in the cash register for no reason. Their money is your money, as of right now.
Watch the Throne released in 2011 and sold 486,000 units first week. It had some all-time tracks from the duo, including the aforementioned Otis, Paris, No Church in the Wild, and so much more. While Watch the Throne is an enjoyable album, I don't think it met expectations. I've said this on the channel before, but when an album with Jay-Z and Kanye West was announced, expectations were already through the ceiling. The expectation is that this would be an amazing album, and I don't think Watch the Throne is that amazing album. There are some really high highs, but there are also some dull lows. So while I think Watch the Throne is a very enjoyable album, you could also say it's a disappointment with the expectations that were placed on it, fair or unfair. The duo also released a deluxe edition of the album featuring some tracks that didn't make the initial cut, such as Ham, Primetime, The Joy, and Illest Motherfucker Alive. While Kanye was in the middle of cooking up some decade-defining albums, he decided to throw in a little compilation piece for his artists on his Good Music label. Cruel Summer would be the first and only Good Music album, and it featured a stacked artist list. Travis Scott, Kid Cudi, Common, Chief Keef, Jay-Z, Raekwon, and more appeared on this project. Not many people talk about Cruel Summer because rather than being a sole Ye album, it's a compilation project. But because of that, this album is truly slept on. While Good Music was founded all the way back in 2004, it would take 7 years for a group compilation album to finally release. And when it was announced, it was revealed that it would coincide with a film of the same name, Cruel Summer. Recording mostly went smooth for Kanye standards, although some Good Music collaborators had songs scrapped, such as Big Sean and Common's song titled Trash Bags, and Azealia Banks said she recorded for the album too and her vocals weren't used, but for the most part things went pretty smooth. Cruel Summer sold 205,000 units first week and had some smash hit singles like Mercy and New God Flow. The album received a mixed response from critics and fans alike, as the project was filled with some amazing cuts and some underwhelming tracks as well. Some of the incredible standouts include the Posse cut Mercy, the Don't Like remix, Click with Jay-Z, and New God Flow featuring Pusha T, which I think has some of Ye's best verses of the 2010s in terms of flow, energy, and bars. Some of the other cuts are a bit underwhelming, especially the ones that don't feature Ye, the man behind the entire label, but overall, Cruel Summer has some great songs, and if you haven't already listened, I would recommend it. Yeezus is by far Kanye's most unique album. Its brass, industrial sound is like nothing that came before it, as lyricism took a back seat as Ye and Rick Rubin spent most of their effort on creating a unique soundscape. Ye took a lot of different inspirations from Yeezus, taking from early Chicago drill to dance hall to even electric music to try and balance a minimal soundscape that would actually work. After the release of Cruel Summer, Kanye got to work on his next full-fledged studio album. He shopped a couple names like Thank God for Drugs, but ended up settling on Yeezus as the final name, a combination of his nickname Yeezy and Jesus. I know, very humble. Aside from genres of music, Ye was also heavily influenced by art and architecture for this album. There's even a story that Ye visited a specific furniture segment of the Louvre 5 separate times in order to find inspiration for Yeezus. A lot of the album was recorded across various hotels in order to keep production under the wraps and prevent any leaks. Kanye collaborated with the likes of Daft Punk and primarily Rick Rubin to get the production style he felt was best suited for his own vision. In fact, a lot of tracks were left off the album because they sounded too similar to songs on previous albums. Rick Rubin even detailed how during the final recording process, they had 3.5 hours worth of material they had to condense down to just 10 songs. While My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy was intense in recording and took such a long time to perfectly craft, producer Anthony Kilhofer, who helped to work on the album, described Yeezus as the fastest record ever made. And Travis Scott described the album as from the year 3000 with how futuristic it sounded. The album artwork was done by the iconic Virgil Abloh and featured some of the most minimalistic elements that have ever appeared on any Kanye album. It was exactly what Ye wanted for this project. The album artwork is simply a CD with a red square, and the physical CD version of the album features no artwork, as it's just the CD. The perfectionist in Kanye shined during the making of this album, as one day he'd go up to Def Jam executives and say the album was nearly finished, and then the next month he'd go back and say the album was actually 30% done. Yeezus sold 327,000 units first week, and public perception was mixed. Some people thought the new sound was too much, or even too little, while others praised Ye for trying something different once again. Kanye's pioneering would pay off in the years to come, as Yeezus is looked back on as a major stepping stone for industrial and modern hip-hop, with songs like I Am a God and Black Skinhead curating that sound that Ye wanted. Ye even threw his old fans a bone with Bound 2, which has that soulful samples that old Ye fans love so much, and Bound 2 is one of Kanye's most popular songs to date. It was such an energetic time to be a Ye fan, as he even went touring once again, bringing artists like Pusha T and Kendrick Lamar out on the road with him for the Yeezus tour. This tour was also the debut of the iconic masks that Kanye would become known for. While Ye started wearing these masks in 2012, the Yeezus tour cemented their status. Kanye would continue to wear these kinds of masks while promoting subsequent albums such as Donda and the Vulture series. When looking at Yeezus as a whole, I do think it's underrated in terms of Kanye albums, as a lot of people have love for the old Kanye and the newer Kanye that came after this album, but I think Yeezus is such a sweet spot in the middle that profounded such brand new ideas that work extremely well. While there are some misses on this album, songs like On Sight are so different and work so well that you just gotta keep listening. Underrated tracks like Blood on the Leaves are so good. Guilt Trip, which I don't ever hear anyone talk about, might be my favorite song on the album. The album just sounds unique in a good way, and it's just aged better over time. While Yeezus started the I miss the old Kanye crowd, it certainly has, as I already mentioned, aged better as time has gone on. It has certainly made its impact on hip-hop. One of the most popular albums in Ye's catalog, The Life of Pablo is a hectic masterpiece that truly exemplifies the phrase beauty in chaos. Kanye began his follow-up to Yeezus in 2013 with the working title So Help Me God, with an intended release date of 2014. But if you know anything about Ye and release dates, you know where this is heading. Early recording sessions for So Help Me God led to singles or songs given to other artists, such as Only One with Paul McCartney, 4 or 5 Seconds with Rihanna, and All Day. However, during the next couple of years, Kanye toyed around with the album name, going from So Help Me God to Swish to Waves, and finally, The Life of Pablo. While most of the album was recorded from 2013 to 2016, Ye had songs in the vault all the way back to 2010, as the beat for No More Parties in LA was given to him by Madlib back in 2010, and Kanye only just decided to use it. The album cover is meant to symbolize the chaotic persona that is Kanye West. On one side, you have family, which keeps him grounded, and on the other side, you have the famous and luxurious lifestyle that creates the braggadocious Kanye West. The Life of Pablo doesn't symbolize one particular person named Pablo. Rather, it's meant to symbolize different parts of different Pablos that create the persona of Kanye West. St. Paul the Apostle is meant to symbolize the religious aspects of Ye, exemplified in an ultralight beam. Pablo Picasso is a mirror into the artistic side of Kanye, always an innovator, always willing to push the boundaries. And finally, you have Pablo Escobar, meant to symbolize the more chaotic aspects of Kanye that make him the man he is and drive him to make the music that people love. The album premiered during the Yeezy Season 3 showcase in Madison Square Garden, where Kanye played songs from the album such as Father Stretch My Hands, among others, and it was also revealed that Pablo was supposed to be a Tidal exclusive project, the streaming company Jay-Z holds shares in. However, thankfully, that wouldn't be the case, as the album was released on other streaming services 2 months after the initial February Tidal release. Since the album was initially a streaming exclusive on Tidal, the first week numbers for The Life of Pablo are not accurate, as most people illegally downloaded the album, something Kanye even mentions on St. Pablo. But wait a minute, how could he mention that on a song on an album that already released? That's because this was the first of many albums in Ye's catalog where Kanye would update the project after release. For example, the infamous "I'ma Fix Wolves" tweet was not a joke. He actually reworked the song to remove vocals and put Frank Ocean's outro on a separate song titled Frank's Track. He also moved Ultralight Beam from the outro spot all the way up to the intro and added St. Pablo as an outro. In the end, over 12 songs received different forms of updates, and in my opinion, it was for the better. The Life of Pablo has always been extremely popular in Ye's catalog, and I think that's for a reason. Like, you have Father Stretch My Hands, for God's sakes, everybody knows that song. There are also just some great bangers on this track, even underrated ones like 30 Hours with 3 Stacks. It's one of my favorites on the track. No More Parties in LA is an excellent banger featuring Kendrick and Kanye rapping their asses off, and the aforementioned St. Pablo is just a masterpiece. Ye tries a lot of different things on this album with a lot of different artists, and for the most part, they work. I'm not a huge fan of the interludes on this, like a Lowlights or even a Frank's track. They're just kind of there in my opinion, but for the most part, everything on this album just clicks. There's no rhyme or reason to it, there's no proper curation, and I think that works for an album like The Life of Pablo, which is so chaotic. Kanye once again toured for the album, launching the St. Pablo Tour in 2016, but the tour is less known for the music and more known for the numerous mental breakdowns Ye went through, eventually leading to his hospitalization and bipolar diagnosis. This revelation would lead to a sort of short hiatus from music making and the inspiration Kanye needed for his next album. After Ye was released from the hospital with a bipolar diagnosis, he became a huge advocate for mental health. In 2018, he executive produced 5 different albums known as the Wyoming Sessions, with 2 of them being his own, and both of them primarily focusing on mental health. Ye is obviously a self-titled project that matches the theme of the Wyoming Sessions, that being only 7 tracks, a focus on quality over quantity. Kanye also stated that besides being self-titled, he named the album Ye because the word Ye, which means you in the Bible, is the most common word in that book. The project dives into a multitude of different themes as Kanye takes us on an adventure into his own mind. He talks about his bipolar disorder, homicidal and suicidal thoughts, his fears of fatherhood, his thoughts on women, and even psychedelic drugs. Initial recordings for the album took place in 2017, but it wasn't until the Wyoming Sessions in 2018 where things really started to take off for this album. After a controversial interview, to say the least, with TMZ where Ye proclaimed that slavery was a choice, he redid the entire album and even suggested that he re-recorded the whole thing in a month. Part of this can actually be confirmed, as in the intro for Wouldn't Leave, he references the viral interview.
I said slavery a choice, they said hi, yay.
The album cover is a picture of the Teton Mountain Range in Wyoming, with the green text, "I hate being bipolar, it's awesome," playing on the theme of mental health. The album was released on June 1st, 2018 to high critical acclaim. It also marked the first time Ye released an official vinyl for an album since Watch the Throne 7 years prior. Ye is one of my personal favorites in Kanye's discography. It's short, it's sweet, and the quality is there from start to finish. There are no skips on this album. The intro on I Thought About Killing You is very dark, yet for whatever reason, I can't really skip it. It works so well and transitions so great into the actual song part of the track. Ghost Town and Violent Crimes are 2 incredible songs that play on the themes that I mentioned earlier. No Mistakes and Wouldn't Leave are short but sweet. Every single song on this album bangs, even All Mine. A week after the release of Ye, Kanye and Kid Cudi released their collaborative album Kids See Ghosts under the same name. The album also deals with mental struggles. The track Reborn, for example, is about being reborn into a state of happiness. The duo was heavily involved in the production process, both producing nearly every song on the album. This album also followed the Wyoming release structure, that being just 7 songs on the project. The album artwork was done by legendary artist Takashi Murakami, who also did the cover for Graduation. The artwork was heavily based on this piece titled 36 Views of Mount Fuji by Katsushika Hokusai. I won't lie, Kids See Ghosts is not my favorite in Kanye's catalog, but it's still really good. Cudi Montage, Reborn, and Fourth Dimension are all bangers, especially Fourth Dimension with that sample flip, it's crazy. Some of the songs like A Ghost Town Part 2, I'm not the biggest fan of. They're not bad by any means, they're not for me. Feel the Love is also okay for me. It's much better than Ghost Town Part 2, but I've never really been a fan of Kanye's part. That might be a little controversial, but again, it's just not for me. I think Kanye and Cudi do a great job of delving into the themes of mental health. They both do that really well in this project, so I don't want to knock them for that when I give my personal thoughts saying that Kids See Ghosts is not my favorite. Listening to Ye and Kids See Ghosts back to back really brings you into the mindscape that Ye was in after his release from the hospital, delving into those themes of mental health and not having the stigma that it's not okay to talk about these issues. Both of these albums were really important to Ye. Jesus is King has a complicated legacy. Although not necessarily a bad album, it still leaves much to be desired, especially knowing where it started from and what it eventually morphed into. For those of you who are living under a rock, Jesus is King released in 2019, and just a year earlier, it was supposed to be Yandhi, a futuristic style album that has more leaks than GTA 6. Yandhi was one of the most anticipated Kanye albums of his entire career, in part because of that futuristic soundscape that it promised, and the other part being that it was delayed multiple times. But although the story of Jesus is King does start with Yandhi, it doesn't actually end with Jesus is King. So with all that out of the way, let's dive deep and figure out the truth behind Kanye's Jesus is King. Most of you probably already know the story behind Yandhi by now, but for those of you who don't, I'll give a brief summary. Yandhi was supposed to be Kanye's 9th studio album. It was teased in December of 2018 and promised to deliver a brand new soundscape that Kanye had never touched before. The album had missed 2 planned release dates, which got people wondering if something was going on behind the scenes. So multiple delays later, and Kanye eventually scrapped the entire project, opting for a more religious and family-friendly approach in Jesus is King. Although the album never got an official release, thousands of leaks have made their way online over the years. In fact, you can make your own Yandhi if you really wanted to by just finding all the songs you like and converting them into local files. Although the two are completely different albums, there were 3 songs from Yandhi that did make their way over to Jesus is King, with The Storm becoming Everything We Need, Chakras becoming Salah, and On God being trimmed, the outro being cut, and a feature from Dua Lipa being removed. There's also evidence that multiple songs from the Yandhi era that didn't make their way onto Jesus is King at one point in time were meant to. The fan favorite track Alien had a recent leak that was from the Jesus is King era and was reworked for that religious family-friendly approach.
Yeah, alien, about to go flying home. Being, and a divine one. Beam me up, I'm about to sign on. I started church for the people to worship, I'm watching them sign on.
After moving on from Yandhi, Kanye went on to found the Sunday Service Choir. Despite their last public performance being in 2023, the group is still around to this day. Sunday Service would have live concerts where they would perform covers of some of Kanye's most well-known songs. The track Water, which would officially drop in 2019, was actually performed live by the choir prior to the song's release. It was actually Kim Kardashian, of all people, who had originally posted this track list for the album to Twitter with a promised release date of September. Like Yandhi, the project did miss 2 promised release dates, but it did officially release in October of 2019. The rumor at the time was that Kanye was waiting for Nicki Minaj to give him her new verse for New Body, a clean, Christ-like verse, but I don't buy it because New Body is literally just a song, for lack of a better term, of objectifying women, talking about women and their accessories. Not very Christ-like if you ask me. Fan favorites like New Body and LA Monster were cut from the final track list, and when it did release in October of 2019, it released to a mixed reaction, to say the least. Don't get me wrong, it was still a massive success, debuting #1 on the Billboard charts and garnering 264,000 units in first week sales, but this was the first Kanye album where people felt like something was missing. Critics felt like the album was rushed and underwhelming, not living up to the high bar of standard that Kanye had cultivated to that point, and worst of all, the lyrics and subject matter were just base level. In my personal opinion, I feel like Jesus is King is a mid to good album. I believe it's a good album, it does feel like there's something missing. Instead of talking about what his journey to God looked like and how his journey to God became to be, he more just says God is good, God is great the whole time. There's nothing wrong with that, but tell us how you came to God, why you came to God. Tell us a little bit about it instead of just having these songs where you're just basically saying God is great the entire time. There's no real subject matter with Jesus is King. It's more just, I've found God, here you go. There's no journey involved. There's no the lyrics, like I mentioned before, are basically subpar. They're surface level. There's no deep meaning to any of them, and it doesn't have to be that way. Like, you don't have to have deep lyrics or deep meaning to have a good album, but the entire project just feels subpar in the lyrical department, and it doesn't make up for the fact that the production, it's still good, but for Kanye standards, it's not great. But looking at the track list overall, there are plenty of great songs, and I know I've bashed on a couple of them before, like Water, for example. I said it was one of Kanye's worst songs. I've come around to it a little bit. I feel like the first half of that song is really great. The second half is pretty much dog shit, but overall, there is a great track list. There's only a couple songs out of the entire track list where I'm like, these are objectively not great songs. But in total, Jesus is King is good. It just didn't reach that next step to make it great. They say it takes 5 years to decide whether or not an album can be a classic. 5 years to digest the music, the era it came up in, and the overall soundscape. Donda is approaching its 5-year anniversary, and with so much discussion being held about this album over the past decade, I figured now is a better time than ever to look back at an incredible era and break it all down. From the rollout, to the features, to the tracks, we're going to be dissecting this album to figure out the answer to the question, is Donda a classic? And with all that out of the way, play Off the Grid.
Ain't no motherfucking game, man. It's like 8 hours left of this shit. No fucking chuckling and nothing, no kind of way. Alright, play Off the Grid.
In the summer of 2020, Kanye released the first track list for Donda, which included the following tracks: Donda, 24, I Feel Terrific, Future Bounce, Keep My Spirit Alive, Lord I Need You, Off the Grid, Skur, In God's Country, Welcome to My Life, Up From the Ashes, Tell the Vision, Wash Us in the Blood, Everything, New Body, Hold the Love, Praise God, Life of the Party, and Hurricane. In September of 2020, Ye previewed the track Believe What I Say for the very first time. It samples Doo-Wop by Miss Lauryn Hill, and the final version would be slightly different than the previewed version, so have a listen and compare. Following a bunch of Twitter rants, Ye would later announce that the album would be retitled to Donda with Child and would also include a visual album. He would preview this album cover, which would be one of many album cover iterations until the eventual black square. Following these announcements, Donda went on a little bit of a hiatus. We got Nah Nah Nah, the presidential run, and even a divorce, but no Donda related content for quite some time. Fast forward to 2021 and we got our government mandated announcements from Ye collaborators that the album was on the way. Sci-Hi the Prince stated that Ye was hard at work on Donda, and Ye was even spotted working with Tyler the Creator in the studio, who, although he didn't have a major role on Donda, he did provide some backing vocals on the deluxe version of Come to Life. Justin LeBoy even came out of the woodworks to state that Kanye played the album for him and Kevin Durant, calling it Album of the Year. On July 19th, Pusha T announced on Instagram that Ye was going to have the first listening party on July 22nd. However, that same day on the 19th, Ye held a private listening party in a church in Las Vegas, giving us a first glimpse at Donda. During the event, Ye was seen with a face mask on, playing songs from a laptop. According to people who were at the event, Ye was rushing to get the album censored because they were in a church setting, but that is something that would stick on the final album release, as Donda as an entirety is censored. According to attendees, the music sounded finished and the initial release date of July 2021 seemed reasonable at the time. Songs that were played during this LP included the following: Come to Life, Donda, Hurricane, Moon, 24, Never Abandon Your Family, Lord I Need You, God Got Me, God Breathed, Praise God with Pusha T and Travis, Praise God with a Baby Keem reference, Keep My Spirit Alive, Life of the Party, New Again, Dawn to Chant, Daylight, No Child Left Behind, and Jesus Lord. The following day, Kanye previewed No Child Left Behind for the very first time in a visual commercial for Beats by Dr. Dre. Then on July 22nd, Ye previewed Donda for the very first time in a public setting in a listening party in Atlanta in front of a sold-out crowd with the iconic red Yeezy Gap puffer jacket. Going forward, when I talk about the track list for the listening parties, when I mention a feature, that is their first time being featured on that song. And the track list for this listening party included 24, Donda, Junior with Playboi Carti, Remote Control, Praise God with Travis Scott and Baby Keem, Never Abandon Your Family, Hurricane with Lil Baby and Casey, Moon with Don Toliver, Jonah with Vori, Lil Durk and Ty Dolla $ign, Pure Souls with Roddy Ricch, New Again, Tell the Vision with Pop Smoke, God Breathe with Vori, No Child Left Behind with Vori, and Jail featuring Jay-Z. On July 24th, after missing the initial release date, shocker, Justin LaBoy took to Twitter to announce Ye would be dropping the album on August 6th, although, shocker, it didn't release on that day as well. A few days later, Ye packed his bags and moved into Mercedes-Benz Stadium to put the finishing touches on the album. He reportedly rented out the entire stadium for $1 million a day and spent over $24 million total to stay inside the stadium and work on the album. That is dedication. After Mike Dean teased that The Weeknd would be recording for Donda, a second listening party was announced for Atlanta, which would take place on August 5th. This LP has the infamous scene at the end where Ye ascends to heaven during No Child Left Behind. Not only was it an all-time moment, you just had to be there in the community when this happened. The LP featured the following tracks: Donda with Pusha T, Moon featuring both Don Toliver and Kid Cudi, Praise God, Okay Okay, Junior, Jonah, Heaven and Hell, Off the Grid, Remote Control, Donda Chant, New Again, Pure Souls, Keep My Spirit Alive, Never Abandon Your Family, Jesus Lord, God Breathe, Tell the Vision, Jail, Lord I Need You, Hurricane, 24, and No Child Left Behind. A Kanye rollout staple that would not end after this album is the Apple Music pre-order delay. The pre-order for Donda on Apple Music changed multiple times from the 9th to August 15th and eventually August 20th. A third and final listening party was announced for Chicago on the 26th, and Kanye's manager at the time, Boo, stated that after this listening party, Donda would 100% drop. But before the LP, Kanye sort of reignited his beef with Drake with the infamous Joker text. We'll get into the Drake stuff a bit later in the video, but I wanted to post it here for timeline reasons. And prior to this third LP, Kanye officially legally filed to change his name to just Ye. The third and final listening party was something out of a movie. Ye recreated his entire childhood home and put it in the center of the stage. He lit himself on fire and even appeared with Kim Kardashian in a wedding dress, who, keep in mind, they were getting a divorce at the time. Once he met up with Kim, Ye took his mask off. It was the first time Ye was seen publicly without a mask for the entire Donda rollout. The tracklist for this listening party included Donda Chant, Jail Part 2, God Breathed, Off the Grid, Hurricane, Praise God, Tell the Vision, Okay Okay, Junior, Believe What I Say, 24, Remote Control with the Glob Go Gab Galab outro, Moon featuring Don Toliver, Heaven and Hell, Keep My Spirit Alive, Jesus Lord, New Again, GD Anthem, Jonah, Lord I Need You, Pure Souls, Come to Life, and No Child Left Behind. Then, on August 29th, Donda would officially release without Ye's permission. That's right, Ye took to Instagram to announce that Universal put out the album without Ye's consent and he wasn't finished with it, and they blocked Jail Part 2, a song that would later appear on the deluxe version, from appearing on the album. But before we move on from the rollout, we have to talk about Drake. During this time, Ye and Drake were beefing once again, and the center stage for this feud were their upcoming albums Donda and Certified Lover Boy. Ye was taking out Donda ads for Certified Lover Boy songs on YouTube. Drake was leaking songs with Andre 3000 and Ye. It was crazy.
He made 808, so he's everyone that know he ever gets that hoe.
In the end, Certified Lover Boy did outsell and outstring Donda. However, in the modern day, Donda is looked back on more fondly than CLB, so today it's still up to debate who won this infamous album war. Eventually, Ye would release Donda Deluxe, which featured more Part 2s, Up From the Ashes, Never Abandon Your Family, and Life of the Party with a completely reworked Ye verse. A fun fact about Life of the Party is that although the entirety of Donda is completely censored, Andre 3000 refused to release the song if an uncensored version didn't release, so Ye eventually obliged and a single, Life of the Party, was released that was completely uncensored. Another thing I wanted to add that I noticed is that the early versions of Donda took heavy inspiration from Yandhi. As you can see from some of the early track lists, songs such as Alien and New Body were planned for the album, and Hurricane ended up on the final version of the album. Now let's get into the actual album itself. It's said that a Ye project is a place where featured artists can thrive and have breakout performances, like Chance on Pablo, and even in the Vultures era, Freddie Gibbs had an absolutely banger verse on Back to Me. And while that certainly is the case for Donda, such as 504 on Off the Grid, this album in general has the biggest cast of features for any Ye album. The features on the deluxe are so massive, it's like half the industry. They include Selena Johnson, The Weeknd, Lil Baby, Don Toliver, Kid Cudi, Andre 3000, 504, Playboy Carti, Jay-Z, Baby Keem, Travis Scott, Tyler the Creator, Vori, Kid Cudi again, Young Thug, Vori again, Carti again, Tony Williams, Conway the Machine, Westside Gun, Jay Electronica, Young Thug again, Pop Smoke, Lil Durk, Vori again, Roddy Ricch, Lil Yachty, Ruga, Jay Electronica, Carti again, Ty Dolla $ign, DaBaby, Marilyn Manson, Casey, and so much more. Now normally for a retrospective, this is the part of the video where I would go track by track and give my thoughts on every single song, but Donda the Deluxe has 32 tracks and I don't want to keep you here all day, so I'm going to go over some of the standout hits and some of the more underrated songs. JL features The Return of the Throne, the first Ye and Jay-Z collaboration in about half a decade, and it completely hits. A little interesting thing from this song is the line that Jay-Z says that we're going to get rid of the red hat, and Ye apparently took issue with this at the time, as he would later tweet in 2025 his true thoughts about this bar from Jay-Z, stating that he almost left Jay off the album. Hurricane is one of the Yandhi songs that appears on Donda. It features The Weeknd and Lil Baby, and the thing about this song that I think they sort of messed up is I wish that they incorporated the Yandhi production along with the new production. I think the new production is great, but I wish we got a little bit of a mix. But besides that, there's a great new verse from Ye, Lil Baby fits with the song surprisingly, and The Weeknd, the chorus just hits. I mean, it's The Weeknd. Like, was there any doubt? Praise God is a staple collaboration between Ye and Travis Scott. I mean, every time the two appear on stage, there is a 110% chance they perform this song. It's an all-time classic. You get an all-timer from Donda at the beginning of the song. There's nothing really to complain about. And if I see people in the comments complaining about Baby Keem's verse, just stop it. Just stop it. Come to Life is one of those songs from Ye that's just special. It features some of his best singing in years, and he's yet to replicate this on future projects. It's just such a great overall song that, although it doesn't say a whole lot in terms of lyrics, it sort of repeats the same lines. It's such a beautiful song, especially towards the end. Believe What I Say, I think, is the most underrated song in at least Ye's modern catalog, maybe his entire catalog period. It is such a banger, and people don't talk about this song enough. A little fun fact about this song is that the deluxe version is more censored than the original version. The throat goat line from the original version is actually censored on the deluxe. It's such a fun song. Ye is just having a good time on the track, and in a more modern sense, watching the SoFi show live, seeing Ye transform from All Falls Down to Believe What I Say was beautiful. Pure Souls and Junior are two tracks that I feel are super underrated on this album. Roddy Ricch kills it, and the gospel production works so well for Pure Souls. And Junior, Ye's just rapping like he's feeling it, you know. It's one of those songs where he's just feeling it. He's rapping to rap, and Carti has a great feature on that track as well. Up From the Ashes is another song I wanted to point out. It's on the deluxe version only. It's a little bit more mellow. It's a little bit repetitive, but it's such a nice, flowing, calm, mellow track. Another track that shows Ye's singing ability. It's just beautiful. Now, in terms of my retrospective overall final thoughts for this album, I want to get into the censoring of this album a little bit. I understand why this album was censored. It's more of a Christian gospel album compared to some of Ye's previous works besides Jesus is King, but it kind of is distracting. I get the whole idea with the Donda series. When Ye was first working on Donda 2, he said he wanted the album to be played at weddings and funerals and all occasions possible, so I guess censoring makes sense. But if that was supposed to be the main goal from the beginning, I really feel like Ye and his other collaborators should have rewritten their verses to exclude these curse words from the beginning, because there are so many times on this album where you're just listening to a song, you're in the moment, and then a brick of censors just hit you all at once. It is so distracting. One criticism I hear from this album that is completely warranted is the fact that there is bloat on this album. With the deluxe, there are 32 tracks and the original has like 20 plus tracks, so obviously there's going to be a little bit of bloat. There's a lot of part 2s as well that have sort of other features, and I do feel like this song has plenty of bloat. God Breathe, for example, is one that I can just think of off the top of my head. But honestly, for me, I really don't feel like the bloat weighs down the album, at least in my opinion, because there are so many great songs on this album that even just listening back now, like realize like, oh, this isn't a bloat song, this is a great song, you know? So I really feel like a majority of the tracks on Donda are just great tracks. Obviously, if this album was shortened to like 16 of the best songs, it might be considered one of Ye's best albums of all time, but you know, we don't live in that reality, so we have to judge the album based on what we have. And to answer the original question, I do think that Donda is a classic album, not just because of the rollout, but because of the material that we got on this album. There are so many classic songs from this era, and when you compare it to what we got after Donda, this looks like Late Registration. It looks like The College Dropout compared to later albums down the line. I feel like the hip-hop community as a whole sort of glossed over Donda a little bit because there was an immediate sequel after and because of other aspects, but when looking at Donda as a whole, is it a top 5 Ye project? No, probably not, but I do think it is a classic album, and while that is very debatable, at least to me, the essence of this album feels like a classic. It might not seem like it, but Vultures 1 was one of the most pivotal points of Kanye's career. In an attempt to right his wrongs from previous years, Ye set out with a trusted longtime collaborator to create a comeback album that would put him back on the map like he never left. One of the greatest artists of our generation was back, and through all the bumps and the delays, Vultures Volume 1 broke records and set streaming bars so high that some of the most popular artists in the genre have yet to break them. It's been years now since the first installment in the Vultures series released, and it leaves behind a complicated legacy. Critics and public perception of this album is extremely mixed, and when stacked up to the rest of Kanye's catalog, it's not even close. But in my eyes, Vultures 1 is underrated, especially when comparing it to the projects that preceded it. So today I want to look back at the Vultures era, explain how we even got here in the first place, and look at the album and the tracklist, go one by one, and give my honest thoughts about this project. I'll try not to go into great detail about the rollout specifically, because I do have a video on this channel where I went into the rollouts of Vultures Volumes 1 and 2, so we'll go over the basics, and I will try not to steer the ship too far into the details. So with all that out of the way, here is Vultures Volume 1.
I fell in love with you. We fell in love with you. Guys like us just don't follow the fucking sky, you know?
After the release of Donda in 2021, Kanye found himself at a crossroads. He began the next year by rolling out a sequel, Donda 2, and then completely abandoning it. During the back half of 2022, Kanye was working on a brand new project, a collaborative album with James Blake, which we know today was War, but Kanye was doing a lot more than just music.
You're not Hitler. You're not a Nazi. You don't deserve to be called that and demonized.
I see good things about Hitler also.
Kanye fans remember this moment in time as clear as day. It was an interview that sent shockwaves throughout the entire, not just music community, but community in general, and it was an outburst that Kanye would later state was a product of untreated bipolar disorder. After this interview, Ye posted the song "Someday We'll All Be Free" to his social media accounts and then vanished. His partnerships terminated, his album with James Blake scrapped. Kanye fled to Tokyo in self-isolation, and for most of the next year, he used that time to gather himself and prepare for a comeback. Months went by with no word, and then one day, seemingly out of nowhere, he emerged from the shadows, and he didn't emerge empty-handed. A collaborative album between Kanye and Ty Dolla $ign was announced. First, it was a self-titled project between the new Yen Dollar group, which then turned into Vultures, and finally a trilogy of Vultures albums, with the third installment still to this day being unreleased. During this time period, Kanye was in Italy working with his group of producers and his collaborative group of people on this upcoming project, and that's when a version of Back to Me was leaked online showing a video of this group of collaborators excited and thrilled for this upcoming project.
This is more than just a moment. In the morning, you'll be running back to me.
This was the point in time where people were starting to get excited. We were back. Kanye was back. This video, this energy, this production was something we hadn't seen in quite a long time. That excitement was amplified tenfold with the promotion of everybody on social media platforms.
Sexual, yeah. Am I everything you need? You better rock your body now, everybody.
The first song to release from this new era was the self-titled Vultures track, featuring a star-studded lineup of Chicago rappers with Ye, Bump J, Lil Durk, and vocals from Ty Dolla $ign. In 2023, there were 2 shows to showcase Vultures Volume 1, one in Miami and one in Las Vegas. The show in Miami was the first time that fans were going to be able to hear songs from Vultures, and if you watched this live or know anything about the show, you would know that Kanye's team was not ready for the bright lights. First off, no one had an aux cord, so for half the show, Kanye was walking around asking people if they had an aux cord so he could play songs from his phone. How does no one have an aux cord when you're at a live show? Just completely ridiculous. And Playboi Carti was supposed to be a guest at the show, but he was hours late, so they had some random photo shoot after. And finally, if you watch the stream live, there was noticeable lag. And if you watch previews and playbacks of the show, there's still lag. But we did get to hear new songs from the Vultures series for the very first time, some of which would actually end up on Volume 2, like Slide, Back to Me, Fuck Some, Everybody, Forever Rollin', the list goes on. He played a lot of songs. The second show in Las Vegas was a little bit more laid back, and I personally didn't watch this one live because it was like 5 a.m. Eastern time. But a lot of new material was showcased at this event, including a track called Gun to My Head, which featured a collaboration between Kanye and Ty Dolla $ign and Kid Cudi, which was a big deal. Cudi had previously cut ties with Kanye because of the 2022 incident, so to see these two legends who have so many songs together, so many legendary songs together, reunite on a track, it was special to see. We also got a very early version of Carnival, and let's just say I'm glad he went back and fixed it.
This that Game of Thrones, to Hunger Games, to the Squid Game, to my real name, to my nickname.
After the listening party, there was an after party where Kanye could be seen working on the album in real time during a live stream showcased by Yes Jules. He was taking advice from producers and changing things about the project in real time. It was a very cool experience. Kanye and Cudi also officially reunited, with the two embracing each other for the first time in a long time. The original version of Vultures was slated to release just a couple weeks after the Las Vegas show, but Kanye does what Kanye does, and it was indefinitely delayed. While the first volume of Vultures released in February 2024, before that we did get a leaked track list which was over 20 songs long. That was an official track list that showed more songs and more tracks that weren't on the official release, so I'll let Past Me take it away from here.
The final track list that we would actually see before the release of the album was seen during the making of the Talking music video, where Northwest could be seen wearing this shirt with this track list displaying these 18 songs. And in my opinion, this would have been the best version to release. I mean, just listen to this snippet of Love, Love, Love. It's absolutely amazing.
Day by day I'm falling more in love with you, and that's no lie. Day by day I'm falling, day by day I'm falling, day by day I'm falling.
Prior to the official release of the album, Kanye held a 2-day event in New York where he held listening parties for the final version of the album, but a little forgotten about fact is that originally, no US venue was willing to take Kanye in for these listening parties because of 2022. So Kanye hopped on IG and hopped on the stories and was complaining about this, and then once he posted that, venues were lining up to take him. One thing that was revealed much later down the line was that Kanye and his team were actively looking at Reddit during the Vultures rollout, which might have led to one of the best songs of the Vultures era being included. Back in December, there was a song called Burn that leaked online. It featured vocals from Ty and a verse from Kanye that sounded like the Pink Polo MC that people fell in love with in the early 2000s. It was the first song that the two worked on in the Vultures era, and it was seemingly scrapped until Kanye played it at the New York show. It seems like fans begging on Reddit for this song to come out actually led to this song coming out. Another big change that came from the New York shows was Carnival, which first featured a sample from Black Sabbath's Iron Man, but Ozzy Osbourne didn't approve of it, so Kanye switched it and sampled his own song Hell of a Life, which interpolated Iron Man. On February 10th, 2024, Vultures Volume 1 officially released. Then was taken down, then was released again, then was taken down, released again, and etc. The album faced a lot of difficulties actually getting released because of label disputes and publishers and etc. But eventually, the album was eventually stabilized, I guess, and was officially released. Except for one song. Good Don't Die was a fan favorite from the Vultures rollout, and due to problems beyond Kanye's control, it was taken down and never reinstalled again. So take it away again, past me.
Good Don't Die was seemingly removed from all streaming platforms just a few days after the album released. We would soon find out this was due to yet another uncleared sample Kanye used. Although Kanye changed the sample, it seemed to not be good enough for the Donna Summer estate. I'll let you guys be the judge.
In the dark of night, these thoughts of mine keep me up all night.
In my opinion, this shouldn't have been an issue as the chorus and lyrics were changed, but the Summer estate was not having it, as Good Don't Die will never return to DSPs and the song will likely remain unreleased forever.
With the exception of Good Don't Die, Volume 1 is a 15-track album, and it's safe to say people were anticipating Kanye's comeback. The album got 57 million first-day streams globally on Spotify, debuted #1 on the Billboard charts, and Carnival eventually became a Billboard #1 hit, becoming the first song from a Kanye album to be a #1 hit since Stronger. Critics at the time called it a mixed bag, and after letting the album sink in and giving it some time, the fan reaction wasn't even up to par with Kanye standards. But after all this time, is Vultures 1 any good? Let's run it track by track. Stars is a very beautiful opening with one of the greatest instrumentals from the Vultures era, but in my opinion, it's just too short. There's some Kanye vocals and then a little bit of a verse, some Ty Dolla vocals in between, and that's really it. I believe it's under 2 minutes or just about 2 minutes long, and for an instrumental that is that great, being 2 minutes long is just a tragedy. Keys to My Life, in my opinion, is the most underrated track from the Vultures era. It gets no respect, and I don't really understand why. The intro, honestly, isn't all that much, I guess, in my opinion. There is that line about the dude on the couch eating Papa John's, which I personally think is in relation to this tweet that Kanye tweeted about Chris Paul, but to each their own, but the second half with that smooth transition from Ty and then the Timbo freestyle from Kanye, it's just great. I don't understand why this song doesn't get the respect I think it deserves. Maybe you guys in the comments can tell me. I've had mixed feelings about Paid during my Vultures experience. When the song first came out, I hated it because of that voice from Kanye. I still don't like it, but I hated it at the time. But the more and more I listened to the album, the more and more I actually grew to like the song. The instrumental's great, the vocals from Ty are great, and the from Kanye is still not great. I've grown to tolerate it. Talking is a track that features Northwest, and in my opinion, it's okay. You know, North does a little bit of a smooth, catchy little rap, and the original instrumental for Talking was actually on the War album that I previously mentioned. That's why there's a James Blake sample in there, but I do feel like they should have split the Talking segment and the Once Again segment with Kanye and Ty Dolla $ign into two separate tracks. I get why they put it into one track, but I feel like they shouldn't be the same song in my opinion. But the vocals from Ty and Kanye they're really well done, but the mixing on it is just, it's not great. Like in one headphone it sounds louder than it does in the other one, and that goes for the same one. Like if you're listening on a car radio, Ty's vocals are not as loud as Kanye's and as North's, for example. And that's one of the other problems with Vultures 1, is that especially when it first came out, Vultures 1 was not mixed well. I believe they did a couple updates, I think, but overall, in terms of Kanye mixing standards or Mike Dean mixing standards, the album isn't mixed very well, and that it goes especially for Talking. I love Back to Me. The chorus from Ty Dolla $ign is beautiful. The verse from Freddie Gibbs, don't even get me started. I am so glad that Freddie Gibbs was on this album. This was the first time we got a Kanye and Freddie Gibbs collaboration, and Freddie went on later to say that he was so grateful for the opportunity to work with Kanye, and that he thinks, as long as most of us do, that he had one of the best, if not the best verse on the album. And the Gibbs verse, it's so good. I probably know it almost word for word, bar for bar. It's so good. Everything about this song is near perfect, except for Kanye's part. Sometimes it hits for me, sometimes it doesn't. If he had a regular verse, if he had a verse on this song, I truly believe this would be a sort of successor to Devil in a New Dress. You have a great instrumental. You would have a Kanye verse that I would assume in this hypothetical situation I'm just coming up with would be on par with Devil in a New Dress. And then you would have a legendary feature. But the feature isn't legendary on Back to Me because, you know, the main artist isn't that great on the song. Sometimes the beautiful big titty but naked women part, it hits for me. Other times it doesn't. It depends on the day to day. If I'm in the car and I'm listening to Vultures, I'm shouting beautiful big titty but naked bitch to this guy, you know. But other times I'm listening and I'm like, what if there was a verse on this? This song would be so much better. This song had potential to be an all-time Kanye song. So sometimes it is a little bit disappointing for me, but I love Back to Me. Honestly, might be my favorite song from the entire Vultures era. Hood Rat is one of the worst songs from the Vultures era, more specifically Vultures Volume 1. When I do my Volume 2 retrospective, you'll see why, and if you've listened to Volume 2, you know why, but Hood Rat really doesn't have a lot of redeeming qualities for me. I like the Mike Tyson outro, but at the same time, the instrumental, very graining on the ears. I don't know what the fuck happened with Kanye's singing ability. It's not here on this song. The only redeeming quality about this track is Ty Dolla $ign, and it's passable at best. This song is not good. I would say Do It is one of the more underrated tracks from the Vultures era. There's a decent verse from Kanye, a great chorus from Ty, and it all fits together really well in my opinion. I don't have a lot to say about Do It. It works for me. If it's on, I'm listening to it. It's a great song. Paperwork is one of the two duds on this album for me, along with Hood Rat, which I already got into. I'm not a big fan of the dub step part of this. I know it was a big deal at the time, but it doesn't work for me. It's a big nothing burger for me. There's not much going on. There's not much to keep me listening to the song. You know, it's not for me. I already got into Burn, but again, one of the best songs from the Vultures era. That verse really, it pulls you back in. It reminds you of the Pink Polo days, reminds you of 2004, 2005, even 2007. It's just a great song. The only thing is that I wish they kept more of Ty's vocals and chorus lines from the original leaked version, but I guess I get condensing it down a little bit, but all around, fantastic track. Fuck Some is okay. I know it was really hyped up during the Vultures rollout, especially among fans, especially among myself, because we only had snippets and I really wanted to hear the full song. And then I got the full song and I got a Alvin and the Chipmunks feature that no one really asked for. So there's that, and there were a couple people who were cut out of the song. I know Quavo was one that people were really looking forward to, and he didn't make the final cut for the song, but the song is another what if, where, you know, it is what it is. I already got into the self-titled track Vultures, but again, I think it's a great song. I think people don't give this song enough credit. I think everybody did their part, and it's just a great song. Carnival is one of those songs where, you know, was ruined by the stupid TikTok Riz thing, but before that, people really liked this song, and even now, I still really like this song. You have verses from Ty Dolla $ign and Playboi Carti that are great. The intro from Rich the Kid is fantastic. Kanye's verse, all I'm gonna say is it's there. You know, sometimes you just gotta mute out what he's saying because it's a bunch of nonsense, but it's there. Overall, I think Carnival is it's a good song. Beg Forgiveness is one of those tracks that I don't really find myself listening to that often because of that super long intro that I don't care for. The actual song is great, and you know, Kanye and Ty did their parts, but that super long Chris Brown intro, I hit the snooze button, man. I didn't ask for that. I know the memes with Problematic, you know, we all know him. I think even Kanye knows him if he's never addressed him, but I think he knows him. But putting the Aldi meme aside for just a second, this is a fantastic song. It's one of those songs where Kanye actually decides to rap again, and it's just a great overall song. I really think people would give this song a lot more credit if it wasn't for the Shop at Aldi meme. King is okay. I mean, it's just Kanye saying that he's the GOAT for like 2 minutes, you know. It is what it is. I guess if you're in a braggadocious mood, you could put that on and be like, I'm still the king. You know, I don't find myself going back to the song as much, but it's fine. As I said in the beginning of this video, Vultures leaves behind a complicated legacy, and my overall thoughts about this album is I personally think it's underrated. I don't think it's a bad album, but at the same time, this could have been a great album. When you look at the songs that either didn't make the cut or certain production choices for songs, you really wonder, Vultures, the series, with Volume 1 and 2, is sort of a what if. Like, you look at the song selection that Kanye made, you look at the production choices when you have all these specific options for versions of songs that have leaked online, you look at those and some songs you're like, why? Why this version of the production? Why this song over that song? It's really a who's of why the certain songs, in my opinion. And that's a little bit of a problem with Vultures 1 and 2, in my opinion, is that we know so much about this era of Kanye. We know about all the what ifs. Sometimes it makes the final project a little bit underwhelming, especially with 1, because 2 is just dog shit. So for Volume 1, when I'm listening, I really just try to put all the outside noise aside and listen to what's in front of me. And when I do listen to what's in front of me, I find myself enjoying the album. I do also think that it's important when we do these kinds of reviews or retrospectives to give it some time, because I'll admit, the first time I listened to Vultures Volume 1, I was so caught up in the Kanye hype. I was like, oh, this is his best album since The Life of Pablo, yada yada yada. Obviously not the case, which is why you give these albums a little bit of a cool down period for when you listen to them. And in my opinion, after all this time with Vultures Volume 1 has passed, I think it's just a good album. It's not great, it's not bad, it's just good. Throughout his career, Kanye has been known to create some of the best works of music to come out of the hip-hop genre. From old school classics to modern day gems, Ye has proven himself beyond a doubt as one of the best to ever do it. But there was a point not so long ago where Ye's judgment was clouded. His mental struggles reappeared once again, and it not only affected just him, but his music. The Vultures series is controversial, to say the least. While some, including myself, really enjoy the first installment, Vultures 2 does not get that same love and is almost universally agreed upon as Kanye's worst album of all time. It's been over 2 years since Vultures 2 was first released to the public, so today I wanted to look back at the rollout, the music, the aftermath of the music, and my overall thoughts on this project. The saga of Vultures 2 goes all the way back to January 23rd, 2024, where the announcement was first made on social media that Ye and Ty Dolla $ign planned on releasing a trilogy of Vultures albums all within the same year. While many were skeptical due to Kanye's recent album release history, and they were wondering if Kanye would release one album, let alone 3, many were excited for Ye's first musical output since Donda. While Vultures 1 did drop a little late, it did drop, and as the natural hype of the album died down after a couple weeks, people were starting to crave the promised sequel that was supposed to come out just around the corner. While March 8th came and went with, surprise surprise, no album, the very next day we did get our first look at what Vultures 2 would sound like with a private listening party and a brand new covering featuring Ty holding an image of his brother Big TC. Some of the new songs that had yet to make an appearance on a Vultures album included stuff like Promotion and Believer. This once again led many people to believe that Vultures 2 was just around the corner. It wasn't. Ye's personal and business life during this time period was kinda up in the air due to things we'll get into in a bit, but for Yeezy, it was a chaotic time. This was still a time where the brand was very much independent and did not really operate like a normal business. Ideas were greenlit and promptly scrapped, employee turnover was rampant, and this certainly affected the release of Vultures 2 because in the grand scheme of things, it probably wasn't on the forefront of Ye's mind. What was on the forefront of his mind was the nitrous that he was inhaling, as it was known for quite some time that Ye liked a little bit of the galaxy gas, he liked to inhale some nitrous, and he got this nitrous from Dr. Thomas Connolly, the same dentist that implanted the titanium grills that were so iconic during the Vultures period. The nitrous was clearly affecting Ye's health, and it was concerning to the people around him. Thankfully, after the release of Vultures 2, Ye got off the nitrous, but as we'll get into later, I really do think Kanye's deteriorating health due to nitrous consumption led to the disappointments of Vultures 2. But in the meantime, we did get a brand new release date for Vultures 2 through a Baby Keem memes page. For those who aren't aware, on more than one occasion, Kanye has DM'd the Instagram page Baby Keem Memes, thinking it's the actual Baby Keem. And on this occasion, he revealed to this random person that the new release date for Vultures 2 was going to be May 3rd. This release date was confirmed to be real by leakers, and all we had to do was sit and wait as we hit the government-mandated album dry season. But May 3rd came and went, and once again, it went without an album. But Kanye was indeed working on the album, just not in the way anybody wanted him to. For whatever reason, Ye decided that he wanted to release Vultures 2 in a censored format, similar to the releases of Donda and Donda 2. How do we know this? This is confirmed by leakers, and we have the evidence to back it up. Take a song like Promotion, for example. There was a version of that song that leaked around May of 2024 that was dated around that time period when Vultures 2 was originally supposed to release during this timeline. And on that song, you can tell when you compare it to the final version of Promotion that something's a little different.
We making love to the morning. I just cashed out, almost crashed out. Back at the Maybach, almost passed out. We making love, but we heartless. She want ass shots, give her face shots. Back at the Maybach, yo ho gets laid, yeah.
The May version is completely clean, but for whatever reason, Kanye re-reversed this decision and, as we all know, he decided to release Vultures 2 in an uncensored format. The man is truly a mystery. So we continued in this dry season until July of 2024. That is 4 months since the original release date of March. In late July, a message appeared on the Yeezy website stating that Vultures 2 would be releasing on August 2nd, but just hours after the mysterious message popped up, it was removed entirely. But just as all hope once again seemed lost during the late hours of August 2nd, the same day the album was supposed to be in the palm of our hands, Slide was officially released on the Yeezy website in full and was uploaded to streaming services at midnight on the 3rd. Then, slowly but surely, Vultures 2 started to creep its way through streaming services. The long wait was finally over. So after all the delays, all the shortcomings, the pitfalls, the waits, the album wasn't mixed and wasn't even finished. Vultures 2 famously released in an unfinished state and used nostalgia to bait listeners in the worst ways possible. So let's go over some of the changes that Vultures 2 made to some of the songs that we knew were at least going to be a part of the album or were played during the Vultures era. I'm Moving Slow, which originally premiered in December of 2023, featured an entirely new beat and a new intro featuring the Hooligans. Forever Rolling and River, two tracks that were first played during the Miami rave, also saw significant production changes, and 530 was brought back for some reason, without Ty Dolla $ign on it originally, on a collab album. For those of you who live under a rock, 530 was originally a Donda 2 era track that was brought back for Vultures 2, quite literally in the same state Ye left it in 2 years prior, as the track on release was completely mumbled during the second half and had no changes at all done to it during those 2 years. Sky City, or as I still call it, City in the Sky, was also brought back for Vultures 2. It was a warm sight to see, as the Yandhi era track was one of the most favorite in the Kanye community for an unreleased song, but something was off. It was very quickly discovered that Kanye's part of the song was completely AI. In fact, he just took a Sci-Hi reference track for City in the Sky and just slapped an AI Kanye filter over it and called it a day. We'll get more into Ye's AI usage later on in the video, but this is the first ever instance of Ye using AI for his own songs. Initial reception of the album was not good. In fact, the first week projections for this album were originally just 68,000 units, easily the lowest of Kanye's career. But Ye and his team decided to drop a deluxe version exclusive to the Yeezy website that saw tracks such as Gun to My Head, Believer, Drunk, and Take Off Your Dress included. These songs, to this day, are not available on streaming services. They also brought back Can You Be for hype moments and aura, which I still find incredibly ironic because not even a year prior, the whole song leaked online and leakers paid like thousands and thousands of dollars for this album just for Kanye to go, have it, on a deluxe song, on a shitty album, exclusive to the Yeezy website. The album in its initial state is very much unfinished, but Kanye and his team would provide updates over the next few months to fix mixing issues and finish songs such as 530 and Maybe that featured mumble. However, Kanye's solution to fixing the mumble, instead of recording vocals, was to once again use someone else to record the song, slap an AI filter over it, and call it a day. 530, for example, the second half of that song was replaced by an entirely AI verse, and AI Ty Dolla $ign on the first part of the song for some reason.
Victims. Nights been getting long. Drunk testing.
What the What? What? Was that AI Ty Dolla $ign? Oh my fucking god, it's AI Ty Dolla $ign. Night's been getting long. Bro, come on. Really? He AI'd the first part of the song?
And Maybe, which today we know as Forever, has an entirely AI verse on it that was originally just mumble, which I actually preferred. Now that we've gone over the journey to this album, let's go over the songs on Vultures 2 track by track, while also giving my overall thoughts on this project 2 years later. Slide, I think, is one of the better overall songs from this track list. I think that the original version was way too long. It was like 5 minutes with the extended outro, which it's worked on previous songs in Kanye's discography, such as Runaway's the prime example. But in terms of Slide, I do think it's a good song, and I actually think it features Kanye rapping in actually a pretty competent way, unlike some of the other songs on this album. So I would actually say that Slide is probably one of, if not the best song on this album, but I have a few tracks that I actually think are better than this. Time Moving Slow is the biggest look at how they massacred my boy moment of all time. The original version of this song, the original beat, is so much better. And why the fuck are the hooligans here? Like, really, they're just there. Like, I get on Carnival, hype moments and aura. It worked. Here, it does not work. It's just like, you are the only that I felt like home. They serve no purpose. Zero purpose for this song. But as an overall track, despite the release version being significantly worse than the original version, I do think this is actually a good song, and every time I do revisit this track, I actually find myself enjoying it, besides the reach for my popcorn, oops, that's my cock line. But this does actually feature probably Ye's best rapping performance on this album on the second half of the song, so overall, it is a decent song. Field Trip is a little complicated to talk about because, at least on Spotify, it's still removed after it got randomly removed like 2 months ago as of recording of this video due to a beef that Ye and Don Toliver's label were having, but it is still available on other streaming services, so I will talk about it here. But Field Trip it's okay. Like, it sort of has the similar format to Carnival, except without the hooligans. You have Cardi, you have another artist, you have Kanye, you have Ty Dolla $ign. Like, you know, it's kind of that song that was supposed to be the most popular song on the album, and I kind of think it is. But this song does feature another usage of AI on it, as Kanye's part is almost completely AI, except for the beginning. This ain't cheddar, this quiche. But I do think it's a fine song. Am I gonna revisit it anytime soon? Probably not, but it's alright. I don't really think I need to spend any time talking about Isabella at all. In fact, this section of the video talking about Isabella is longer than the actual song is, but it's really just a giant nothing burger. It's an interlude, if you want to call it that. It's literally just a segment of a song ripped from another song. Promotion is probably one of the better highlights off the album. The beat is really good. It has this sort of positive, uppity vibe to it that I actually really enjoy. I think Future does a great job on this. I think Kanye actually gives a lot of energy in this song, and it is nice to hear the little throwback to Good Life with the like we always do with this. You might call it nostalgia baiting, but I kind of enjoyed it. Overall, Promotion is a pretty good song. If I want to listen to 530, I'll actually unironically listen to the Donda 2 version on streaming, which has zero AI and only features the first half, because they, once again, massacred my boy on this track. 530, when you're listening to the first half, it's pretty good. It's actually one of the highlights of Kanye's career in the 2020s. When you go to the second half and it's either mumble or it's AI, it's pretty dog shit. Dead is one of those tracks that sort of feels like a giant nothing burger. The mixing is still terrible on this track. Lil Durk is actually pretty decent on this one. I wasn't a huge fan of Future's part, especially because on one section of the song, I think this was done by accident, his hook repeats like 7 times. 7 times before they transition. It's ridiculous, but it's there. Forever Rolling is another one of those nothing burger songs. Lil Baby does alright. I actually do like the production changes from the original Forever Rolling to this one. I feel like it sort of fits more with the kind of production aesthetic they were going with for Vultures 2. I know that's a little bit crazy to say, but it feels like it fits better on the album, but again, it's just there. I don't really take Bomb too seriously. Like, I know there are people who say that it's the worst song in Kanye's discography. It's a song that features 2 of his kids. Like, what did you expect, man? It's just there for fun. He probably put it there for fun. Nobody really takes this album seriously, and no one takes this song seriously. Hell, You Know Miles is also on it. I don't think he's on the album version, but You Know Miles is on this song. Like, come on, guys, let's not take this song that seriously. But for those of you who actually enjoy it, good for you. River, I think, is the best song on this entire album. I think it is one of the strongest Kanye performances on this entire album. I think Young Thug knocks it out of the park. I really do wish they kept the outro with Charlie Wilson and Ty Dolla $ign. I don't understand why they removed it in the updates. It sounded beautiful. There still is kind of an outro that's really good, but it's not as good as it once was. But I do think this is Kanye's strongest performance, and this is easily the song that I revisit the most on Vultures 2. I don't like Forever. I liked it when it was called Maybe, and I still like Ty Dolla $ign's part. It's really good, but at the same time, Kanye's AI verse I can't listen to. It sounds soulless. It doesn't sound like something he'd rap. It's just not good. I actually did enjoy the mumble on this. I really like the direction that he did with that. I think it really fit well with the song and the vibe that they were trying to go with, and I wish that he kept that. Husband might actually be the worst song in Kanye's discography. If you've followed the channel for some time, you know how I feel about this song. It's dog shit. It's not good. The vocals are terrible. The singing is terrible. The subject matter is terrible. There are no redeeming qualities on this track, and the only good thing to come out of the song is when they removed it from Lifestyle and made it its own separate song. In my opinion, Lifestyle is actually the most underrated song from Vultures 2. I actually think it's really good. I like the drums that they use from Led Zeppelin. I think that Lil Wayne has a decent performance. I actually think Kanye's performance is pretty decent. And in my opinion, I mean, the bar is pretty low. I think this is the best collaboration between Kanye and Lil Wayne. I really like this song. I'm not gonna lie, I haven't listened to Sky City probably since August 3rd, 2024. And that's saying something, because City in the Sky is one of my favorite unreleased Kanye songs of all time. The pure joy that I felt when I saw that City in the Sky would be on Vultures 2, I can't even describe it to you. My sheer disappointment when I listened to that AI verse, I couldn't even describe it to you. I think that Sky City perfectly encapsulates this album, pure laziness and nostalgia baiting. My Soul is a pretty decent song. I don't think Kanye has the strongest performance on this song by any means. I really like Ty's part, and I think TC's part is actually the best part of the song. It's a fine outro. It's probably the worst outro in Kanye's discography, but he has a lot of solid outros, so that's not really saying much. It's okay. Looking back on Vultures 2 years later, I still think this is easily the worst album in Kanye's discography. I mean, you could argue the Donda 2 2025 version, but even I don't really count that. At least on Apple Music, Donda 2 is only under the Ye title. The Ye name doesn't have Kanye West under it, so it's not on his profile, so I don't really count it. Like, it's kind of weird. But you could argue Donda 2, but in my opinion, I do think Vultures 2 is the worst in Kanye's discography. I think that this entire project almost is completely lazy. I think it really encapsulates the point in time that Kanye was in. He wasn't in the best mental shape. He wasn't in the best shape at all, and I think that this album is really just a continuation of that. I think that most of the songs on this project are just lazily written, lazily recorded, lazily mixed, and lazily released. You can easily point to this album as the beginning of Kanye's AI usage that he would perpetuate during the Bully era. This is when the lazy AI bullshit started. Vultures 2 is to blame for that, and I really think the fact that 2 years later, no one really talks about this album a whole lot. In fact, even during Kanye's giant world tour that he's doing right now, I don't think he's played any songs from Vultures 2 at all at any of his shows, which kind of speaks volumes. I think if done right, this album could have actually been good, but not great, because in my opinion, the subject matter on both Vultures 1 and 2, especially 2, is not great. Most of the songs are just Ye and Ty Dolla $ign horny posting, and while Ty Dolla $ign does a great job on the hooks, he does a great job on his verses. I do think that Kanye is sort of just dragging along, and especially on this album, Ty is kind of carrying. If Ye and Ty Dolla $ign did a much better job curating this album and even featured some of the songs on the so-called deluxe on the album, it could have been good, like A Gun to My Head with Kid Cudi or I Take Off Your Dress, where Kanye actually is rapping again. it could have been a decent album. I don't think it would have ever been a great album. Even good might be pushing it because of the very similar subject matter, a very one-dimensional subject matter that is on this entire project. But if executed properly, if recorded properly and curated properly, it wouldn't have been this awful abomination. So with hindsight now on the forefront of our minds, I think, at least speaking for myself, I can easily say that my opinions on this album have not changed over the past 2 years. I think that it's actually gotten even worse, seeing that Bully and the Bully Deluxe are significantly better than Vultures 2, and we can see that Kanye is still very much capable of making good, even great music. Vultures 2, in my opinion, is going to continue to be a blip on Kanye's legacy in terms of music. I think that no one is going to look back on this album in 10 years and be like, yo, you remember that underrated project from Ye's discography? No one's ever going to say that. This album is, and will continue to be dog shit. I know that was a little harsh, and if there are any Vultures 2 enjoyers out there, I'm sorry, but these are just my unfiltered and honest opinions, and I wouldn't give you anything less. Ever since it was announced in early 2022, Donda 2 has been shrouded in mystery and filled with a lot of potential. It was supposed to release all the way back on February 22nd, 2022, or 2/22/22, but didn't. And as time passed by, it seemed like this album would never see a release on streaming services. Until it did. But the final product we got wasn't the grand and bold idea for Donda 2 that we saw during the listening party, but a half-assed attempt at an album that was somehow already finished. Although it's much more complicated, to put it in simpler terms, the man who was responsible for all of this was a shell of himself by the time he actually got around to releasing Donda 2 in 2025. So today we're going to take a look at how we went from this to this and figure out what happened to one of the most promising albums in the back half of Kanye's career. The rollout for Donda 2 started way back in early 2022 when Kanye was seen in the studio with the likes of A$AP Rocky, Travis Scott, and Playboi Carti for what seemed like studio sessions for an upcoming album. People in Ye's inner circle were starting to throw some buzz out about a potential sequel to Donda and that it might release sooner than we thought. And keep in mind, Donda had released 4 months prior to this, so to get 2 Kanye solo studio albums back to back in the same year was a lot to ask for. But lo and behold, on January 27th, Kanye took to Instagram, as he so often did during this time period, and announced Donda 2, which would be executively produced by Future. Later in February, it was confirmed that a listening party in Miami was going to happen on February 22nd, and that Mike Dean was returning to mix the album. However, there was an update that didn't really please fans all too much. Kanye had announced that Donda 2 would be exclusive to the STEM Player service, which costed $200. His reasoning? It was one of Kanye's many stands against the music industry and how it pays its artists for their music. The STEM Player was a service that allowed for songs to be isolated through its vocals, instrumentals, and other aspects. And it's a cool idea, but for $200, that's a bit much to ask for, especially for just one album in Donda 2. Kanye had teased the STEM Player all the way back with Jesus is King, and Donda had also released on the platform as well. And when the listening party did take place in Miami on February 22nd, it was a mixed bag to say the least. But we did get to hear new music for the album, including True Love, Security, Louis Bags, Pablo, and much, much more. The following day, Kanye would release some of the songs on the STEM Player platform, but there was a catch, as there always seems to be with him. The songs were almost all unfinished. Open verses, mumbles, these songs were nowhere near to be finished, and they were all censored like they were on Donda. There were rumors and reports that as time would go along, Kanye would continue to update the album, and the STEM Player did receive updates, but the songs remained unfinished. Months went by without any major news on the album. The only major news for the album that we got was in May when it was announced that True Love with XXXTentacion would release as a single. The single version of True Love is slightly altered than the album version with some different drum patterns among other things, but at its core it was pretty much the same song. There was a rumor that circulated last year that Kanye had planned on dropping finished versions of Pablo, 530, and True Love in the month of April in 2022 in a similar release pattern to the Good Friday releases back in 2010 in anticipation for My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, but these releases never came to fruition. True Love being released as a single was the last major update we got on Donda 2 for quite some time. Kanye would continue to play some of the songs at certain events and even in some YouTube videos, but it seemed like Donda 2 was going to be left dead in the water. Kanye had started working on a whole other album during the latter half of 2022 titled War. I have a whole video on that. So it seemed like Donda 2 was just thrown off to the side, never to be released or touched again. Fast forward a couple years towards the Vultures era, and Kanye fans online started a campaign to release Donda 2 on streaming services. Headlined by members of the Axe Discord server Yeezy Cord and members of the Good Ass subreddit, people had started to form a campaign to get Donda 2 on streaming services. The movement online was going strong well into the Vultures era after the releases of Vultures 1 and 2, and after the announcement of Bully. These fans wanted this album out. At the time, it had seemed like a useless campaign. A lot of the songs that were meant for Donda 2 had released officially in some way. City of Gods had released as a single and was under 504's album, which released in 2022. Keep It Burning was released under Future's album I Never Liked You. True Love, as we had already discussed, was released as a single. Sci-Fi was released under Sean Leon's album In Loving Memory as the title Oxygen. And 530 had released with Vultures 2. But 3 years after the album was supposed to release, something had happened. In the middle of Kanye's second online Nazi rant for whatever reason, he had tweeted in the middle of all that his intentions to release Donda 2 under streaming services. And that tweet would officially begin the second rollout for Donda 2, a rollout that would see new lows that we never even thought were fathomable before. This was around the time that known Kanye associate Digital Nas began his career as a streamer, so through that connection, Kanye would start working on this album on livestream with Digital Nas. But instead of rocking stadiums and working with some of the greatest artists in the game, like the first Donda 2 rollout, things were different, to say the least. Donda 2's development would take place in a basement with the likes of Nick Fuentes and Sneeko live streaming Kanye doing absolutely nothing while putting AI references on the album. The funny thing was that Digital Nas and others were asking members of the Kanye community for the reference tracks and stems for Donda 2 that had leaked online, when it turned out that Mike Dean had the final mixes for Donda 2, they just never got in the hands of the crew. The final tracklist for Donda 2 would see many of the songs that fans had wanted for years make an appearance, including 530, despite the fact it had already released on Vultures 2. And when Donda 2 did release on streaming, it was under the alias of Donda, because Kanye did not have permission from the artists and engineers who worked on the songs in 2022 to release them in 2025, so he was trying to avoid any copyright infringement whatsoever. It was a bit of a struggle at first, as the album was taken down from streaming, then put back up, then taken down and put back up, but as of publishing of this video, the album is currently up on streaming, and you can listen to it if you want under the artist name Ye. The commercial reception was about what you would expect from a 3-year-old album released under an alias. It sold 5,900 units first week, and Kanye blamed Digital Nas for the poor first week sales as Nas pushed for Donda 2 to release on streaming. When Kanye was working on this album in 2025, he and Digital Nas did have conversations about potentially releasing other famous unreleased albums such as Yandhi or War onto streaming services. But due to the poor commercial and critical reception of Donda 2, it seems unlikely Kanye will return to the vault anytime soon. After the chaotic and unpredictable nature of the Vulture series, Kanye fans were eager for Ye's next solo studio album. By 2024, it had been 3 years since Donda, and it felt like 10 years worth of stuff had happened since that album dropped. There was so much to talk about, so many ideas for a solo album. Bully would become the 12th studio album by Ye, and despite a peaceful start, it too would have one of the craziest and most unpredictable album rollouts of all time, very similar to the Vulture series. From humble beginnings to album cancellation to AI drama to a peaceful resolution, today we will be going over the entire, very unpredictable rollout of Bully. So with all that out of the way, let's go back to September of 2024. Both Vulture's albums had been out for a good while, and after years of not doing any formal shows, Ye was once again touring, slowly but surely. One of his first pit stops was a show in Haikou, China, where he went through his greatest hits and previewed Preacher Man for the very first time. During the second show, Ye made a very special announcement about his future plans for music and previewed a song called Beauty and the Beast.
I got a new album coming out. That album is called Bully. And this song is called Beauty and the Beast. It's been a long time coming.
During that same month, Ye posted a video of himself on his story using an ASR-10 to chop up beats, where he showed his chopped up sample for Preacher Man with the caption Producer Man. In October, an article was published by journalist Torre where he details how Ye was currently living life in Japan and gave us some insights on Bully, such as Ye was recording in a hotel room similar to Donda in Watch the Throne, he planned to be the sole producer on the album, and that Bully was going to be a concept album, something that we now know is completely false, as when has Ye ever made a true concept album? A few days later, Ye took to IG where he previewed Beauty and the Beast with visuals from his show in China. He also uploaded the video under the music video section on Apple Music shortly before taking it down. So this was the first instant of anything from Bully ever being uploaded onto DSPs. Technically, it was a music video. Now, while all this was happening, around the same time, a continuing conversation was being had about Ye's usage of AI in his music. By this point, it had been confirmed that Ye was using AI to replicate his voice over reference tracks that other artists were doing for him. So what would happen is that an artist, take Sci-Hi the Prince for example, Sci-Hi would lay down a verse, Ye would take an AI version of his own vocals, slap it on a song, and call it a day. For example, on Vultures 2, tracks like Sky City, 530, and Forever were confirmed to have AI usage on them. Fast forward, and there was a heavy debate in the Ye community about whether or not Preacher Man and Beauty and the Beast were AI, because up until that point, especially Preacher Man, it was really hard to tell, because when Ye was previewing the song in stadiums, it was kind of hard to tell if the vocals were AI or if they were real. However, it was later confirmed prior to Bully's actual release that both songs in their 2024 state were entirely made up of AI vocals, with Preacher Man being written by Quentin Miller, the same rapper who was revealed to be ghostwriting for Drake in 2015. But you might know him as this Quentin.
Hi, Quentin. Ah! Hi, Quentin. Ah!
On October 23rd, Ye revealed to the world the official cover art for Bully, shot by Japanese photographer Deido Moriyama. The cover we know is in black and white, but obviously the original is a colored picture which features Saint West grinning with custom grills. 2 days later, on October 25th, Ye officially put up Bully to pre-order for the very first time. You could buy it on vinyl, CD, and digital on the Yeezy website. Despite having no release date, you could put your faith in Ye to drop the album on time and buy it for yourself. All of this was happening around the same time that other Yeezy merch was made available, such as shirts for a $20 price tag, as Ye promised for all of his clothing all the way back in 2022. After this tidbit of information, we fell into the government-mandated dry season for Ye album releases. So fast forward all the way to January 4th of 2025, we get a video of Ye seemingly in a private event/studio dancing to a snippet of what we would eventually know as Highs and Lows. The event that Ye was at seemed so low-key that once he saw someone record it, he motion them to just put the phone away. But just 3 days later, the artist Palm, whose song Soleil Soleil is heavily sampled on the original version of Highs and Lows, took to Instagram to say that she did not support Ye using her song in that sample and would not clear it. Hello, I would like to clarify a situation regarding a potential use of my song Soleil Soleil on Kanye West's next project. I do not know the source of the video and audio content that is circulating these days on social media, but I have never given my consent for the use of this sample for reasons that seem obvious to me, being in deep disagreement with the political positions of this artist that I have nevertheless admired in the past. It is sometimes difficult to give up on certain opportunities, but I try to stay true to what I believe in. So while it seemed like Highs and Lows would be doomed to be scrapped on the album, eventually it was re-added to the album and would release just with a different sample. There is a question today as to where the sample for the current released version of Highs and Lows comes from, as though it clearly is not the sample from the leaked version. It does interpolate the same song where that original sample comes from, and seeing as how no one can find the current sample for that song, there is a rumor out there that Ye and his team just put it into Suno AI and just created a sample for it, and although there's no proof to that, the fact that no one has been able to find the sample leads me to believe that's true, and if so, it is a little disappointing. About a week later, Ye took to Instagram to share 2 black and white posts of Mike Dean and Tony Williams with the caption "Bully," implying that he was back to working with the two. While Ye and Mike Dean did not end up working together, Tony Williams did end up making the album on the song Mission Control, among other collaborations. Williams has a feature on Mission Control and is credited as a composer, vocal producer, and featured vocalist, and on I Can't Wait, he's credited as a vocal producer. In early February, Ye did an interview with Justin LeBoy on The Download where he confirmed that he and Mike Dean were back to working together for now, and even revealed why his next album was called Bully.
My son was playing with some kid, and then he kicked him. And I asked my son, I said, "Why you do that?" He said, "'Cause he weak." And I was like, this man is really a bully right here.
Ye also announced that Bully would contain AI vocals, and he defended its usage and pushed back on criticism by comparing it to his use of autotune on albums such as 808s and Yeezus.
It's a more negative reaction than autotune. And I remember, like, I did autotune because people thought, they're like, man, this auto-tune is trash. As an artist, I could take anything. I could sell a piece of shit for like $10 million and shit, you know, and shit. That's another 20.
Yeah. So auto-tune, you feel like is AI as well?
Exactly. It's in the same family, except people have a more visceral reaction.
I don't think I have to explain why this point is pretty fucking stupid, because AI, especially when it's generative AI or using AI to replicate your own vocals, it's pretty clear that those aren't your own vocals. When you're just layering a reference track, layering your vocals on that's not you. Autotune is completely different. When you were listening to Preacher Man or Beauty and the Beast in 2024, for example, or even the shit on Vultures 2, you could just tell in an instant that it was AI because it featured no soul. There are so many songs in Ye's catalog where he uses autotune that you can feel the soul. You can feel the passion in those songs. And I'm very glad that eventually, which we'll get into, Ye changed his stance on this. And finally, he announced that Bully would release on North's birthday on June 15th. On Twitter that same day, Ye tweeted, "Please remember I'm only 35 days into the year," a post we should have taken as a warning. Just 2 days after the interview on The Download, Ye would take to Twitter to post a series of rants going over his biggest controversies like it was a greatest hits compilation. It was very clear that Ye was unwell. I think at this point we all know about the controversies and outlandish things that Ye said during this pocket of time in 2025, but I'm obviously not going to be going over all of it because it doesn't really pertain to Bully, and Ye has since apologized for all the things that he said. However, I will be going over everything in relation to Bully. Although I do have to admit he did have a couple bangers. On March 6, Ye tweeted that his new album, which was still Bully at the time, would have that anti-Semitic sound, which would later be converted to the unreleased album we know today as Cuck, or In a Perfect World. On March 7th, Ye tweeted about Bully in the midst of his Twitter rant, going, "Let's do some Houdini shit. Bully is by far the best music ever made. It's so good, I will perform at the Grammys and Super Bowl wearing my swastika t-shirt." 11 days later, Ye surprise released the Bully version 1 film on Twitter with the caption, "Album not finished and half the vocals are AI. I'ma re-sing cause I actually hate AI now. I wanna see what y'all fuck with." The video, shot and directed by Ye and edited by Hype Williams, depicts Saint West fighting some pro wrestlers with a toy mallet and introduces many new songs, some of which would feature on the final release of the album, such as White Lines, I Can't Wait, Circles, Bully, Last Breath, Losing Your Mind, This One Here, and Melrose. The V1 Bully album featured chopped up sample instrumentals that would not make the final album, such as Last Breath sampling Besame Mama by Pancho Sanchez, Circles more directly sampling Huit Octobre's 1971 by Cortex, and I Can't Wait sampling You Can't Hurry Love by The Supremes. The final version of Bully would feature artists like Peso Pluma and Lauryn Hill interpolating vocals or singing over the instrumentals rather than directly sampling on the songs, very likely because Ye's team probably couldn't clear those samples. Standouts for me personally during this time period were Circles and I Can't Wait. On March 19th, Ye tweeted, "I put my son on the Bully album cover to build our relationship." And he also shared a new album cover, and it's exactly what you think it is, I just can't show it uncensored. He also made his own Yedit of Highs and Lows over the beat of World War III, which all I gotta say is, it's okay to stick to the raps and stick to the production. Let your fans do all the edits. It's okay.
Highs and lows. I put you through a lot, I know.
On March 20th, Ye shared that Melrose, previously played in the V1 film, would not be on the Bully album, very likely due to his ongoing beef with Playboi Carti at the time. Fast forward almost a month, and Ye tweeted that he was busy with many things, such as Donda 2, look how that turned out, World War III, and a verse for Dave Blunt's. Among these things, he shared that Bully was in the mixing process. 2 days later, Ye announced that he created a new genre of music called Cuck. Think punk, prog rock, rap, electronic, Berlin school, synthwave. And on April 21st, we officially exited the Bully era for now and entered the Cuck era. You might be curious as to why we're now talking about a completely different album, but Cuck, I feel so weird saying that, is important to the story of Bully, so stay with me. A week later, Ye shared that the album was on the way and currently in progress of being uploaded, but on May 18th, the entire album leaked online with some familiar songs being played on the tracklist, just under different names. It took me a while to actually decide to listen to the stuff that leaked during that time because I was pretty upset with the things that Ye was saying at the time, and I really wasn't in the mood to listen to whatever fucked up shit he was cooking up at that time, but eventually I did listen to it, I actually reacted to it, and I did have some pretty interesting thoughts.
Alright, next up we have Uncle. Oh boy. Do we get a sequel to Cousins at this point? I shouldn't have said anything, bro.
He also decided to change the album name to In a Perfect World, which, thank God, is what I will be using to describe this album going forward. But just as I was out, they pulled me back in because we were now back in the Bully era, as during a video posted by Sneeko, Ye reconfirmed that the album would be dropping on June 15th.
Bully is coming out the Bully album is coming out on June 15th.
On June 15th, the album didn't come out. It was delayed until July and then delayed again until September. 1 month later, Ye officially released Bully songs on streaming, publishing an EP with 3 already previewed songs, Preacher Man, Beauty and the Beast, and Damn, with the first 2 being entirely AI. On July 4th, he released another Bully preview EP containing the already shown Last Breath and Losing Your Mind, with Last Breath being entirely AI and Losing Your Mind being mid as fuck. And on September 22nd, Bully was delayed to November 7th. On October 18th, Ye posted Grammy submissions for 2026, including Preacher Man for Song of the Year, Record of the Year, and Best Melodic Rap Performance. It did not receive any nominations. And on November 3rd, Bully was delayed yet again to December 12th. After about May 2025, Ye was starting to keep to himself. Although we just went over everything that happened between May and October, on Twitter he stopped posting. He stopped talking about all these crazy ideological things. He kept a low profile. Until early November, when all hope seemed lost for Bully and Ye's health, a beacon of light shined. On the 8th of November, Travis Scott brought out Ye as a special guest for his Tokyo concert on the Circus Maximus tour. 3 days later, they held a studio session together where they would create Father.
I was working with them.
You've been back to us. That we've been to our Father.
She could play piano to me. I want to play you this chopper. This maybe could have like some drums, like the I Am a God drums.
Mm-hmm.
Some I couldn't figure it out, so he's like. They ain't wanna let me in. Now I'm back to life like an EpiPen. Now my wife in a leopard skin, but first check me out, then check me in. Now, do it again. You see this coat, nigga? Check me in. You see this coat, nigga? Check. You see this coat, nigga? Check me in. All right, punch me in after what I just said. Like it shouldn't go straight to the rap. It should let the beat play a little bit. Know you wonder where the Effie been, but I'm back to life like an EpiPen, and she still in a leopard skin. And check me out, then check me in. See this coat, nigga? And it's Houston.
And on December 8th, Bully was delayed until January 30th. But on January 2nd, new Bully merch appeared on the Yeezy website, including a cassette tape, which also included a new track list for Bully, including Preacher Man, Beauty and the Beast, Last Breath, White Lines, I Can't Wait, Bully, All the Love, this one here, Highs and Lows, Mission Control, Circles, Damn, and Losing Your Mind. This was the first official inclusion of All the Love on a Bully track list, and this had fans overjoyed because All the Love, or as it was originally called, Gas Chambers during the In a Perfect World era, was one of the only songs from that era which had actual potential to be something greater. So its inclusion here got fans really excited again for this album. 20 days later, on January 26th, a full-page advertisement in the Wall Street Journal was paid for by Yeezy and written by Ye, titled To Those I've Hurt, where he apologized for the comments he made in 2025 and said he wants to change for the better. On January 28th, Ye is revealed to have signed with former Apple creative director Larry Jackson's Gamma record label for an independent release of Bully. That's the same Larry Jackson that is name dropped on St. Pablo 10 years earlier. As a result, Ye delayed Bully's release until March 20th to give Gamma some more time to get a rollout ready. On March 10th, billboards started appearing across the world promoting Bully that seemed to confirm a new release date of March 27th. These billboards, containing a new aesthetic, featured wrestlers inspired by the Bully V1 film, appeared in places such as New York, England, and Shanghai. About 9 days before Bully was set to release, some of the physicals had already started shipping out to some select stores, so it was only a matter of time before the physical version of Bully would be leaked online. Hope was pretty high, but expectations were pretty low because we hadn't gotten any confirmation since 2024 as to whether or not the album would be composed of AI vocals. And thus, we are now at the Western Crab 1394 saga. On March 18th, Western Crab 1394 posted to the r/Kanye and r/GoodAssSub subreddits claiming to have received a Bully cassette and documented his journey to gaining access to listen to it. My dad works at a music store and sent me this. Look what I got, a Bully cassette that came in by accident. Blank gave it to me for you. It's unopened, a brand new cassette. I'll keep it sealed. It'll go up in value. Don't tell anyone where you got this. I'll explain later. Update. My dad gets home in a few hours, but I may drive up to him because I need to buy a cassette player. I'm not going to leak because I don't want to be the asshole who ruins it. I will give updates and let y'all know if there are any changes. Update. This is getting so much attention. I'm not going to leak the album. I will post short snippets and let y'all know any changes. I don't want Yeezy Team to assassinate me. I have a player. Don't worry, I have a player and my dad should get home within the next 2 hours. The album will be played tonight. I want to be clear, I am not going to leak or ruin the album. I've been waiting as long as y'all and wouldn't want to ruin the GOAT's album rollout. I'll only post short snippets to prove this is real, and of course, I'm listening for the AI. Also, if there's any surprise features, which I doubt, 15 minutes away. I do not want to ruin the album rollout. I have never used Reddit, so I don't know if I can make a poll. I'm stuck between either posting a few snippets and answering simple questions, or just no snippets. And then Western Crab did stay true to his word and ended up playing a couple snippets. After a post in which Western Crab played a snippet of Circles, the entire Ye community turned on him. They called him a fake, a liar, and a fraud. They even came up with conspiracies that the cassette player he purchased was actually a Bluetooth speaker and he was just playing random edits of Bully that people uploaded to YouTube. But why? The tape looked legit. Why the hostility? Because the snippet that Western Crab played was of the Circles that we know today, and not the 2024 version, which features far superior production and slower paced vocal intakes. In the fallout, Western Crab was banished from the Ye community, his Reddit account deleted, but in the end, he was actually right, as on March 24th, a rip of Bully's physical released online and leaked in full, and the album was comprised mostly of AI vocals from previously heard tracks. But just as all hope was seemingly lost, as people thought that one of the greatest artists of all time had truly fallen off, Ye broke his silence about the album to post a message straight from divine authority. Bully on the way, no AI, and shared a handwritten track listing. Sisters and Brothers, Whatever Works, Father, All the Love, I Can't Wait, Bully, Mama's Favorite, Punch Drunk, This a Must, Outside, Preacher Man, White Lines, Circles, This One Here, King, Beauty and the Beast, Damn, Last Breath. Although the track list is out of order, all of these songs besides Outside made the final version of the album. This is where In a Perfect World actually kicks in, as some of those songs, and future songs we'll be discussing later, come from this era. All the Love was originally titled Gas Chambers, and the beat for Sisters and Brothers was made in the Perfect World era while Ye was in Spain. So March 27th rolls around, and to anyone thinking that Ye was actually going to drop the album on time, really? But just as all hope was lost again, a beacon of light shined again, as 1 hour after 12 p.m., Ye was live on YouTube in Los Angeles playing songs from Bully. This listening party was sort of a live performance that featured many of the new Bully aesthetics, including wrestlers fighting in a ring, and many new songs with Ye's real vocals heard for the first time, including King, Father, Mama's Favorite, Punch Drunk, Sisters and Brothers, and Whatever Works. I actually live streamed this event while it was happening in real time, and it was a lot of fun.
Couple Fortnites and at least 2 winners.
Fortnite! The next day on March 28th, the standard edition of Bully was released with the same songs from the listening party. Ye also released the music video for Father, directed by his wife Bianca Sensory, a song that he decided to push as the album's hit single. But after the album dropped, something odd happened with Don Toliver's contributions to the project. As most people know, Don recorded reference tracks for songs like Circles and this one here, but it seems that Ye did not clear Don's contributions to the album, and as we know, Ye has pre-existing beef with record executive Lucien Grange, who owns UMG, which is the label that Don Toliver is signed to. So the streaming version of Circles, which originally was just the Don Toliver reference track, was completely wiped from streaming, and Ye had to very quickly re-record the song with his own vocals and put it back on streaming. But as a result of this beef that we didn't really get a look at, Field Trip from Vultures 2 was completely removed from Spotify, and as of recording of this video, in June 2026, it's still not back. But in the present day, it seems like things are better now, with Don being featured on the deluxe. Spoiler alert. On April 5th, Gamma revealed that a Bully Deluxe was on the way in an Instagram post, celebrating the album's commercial success. After Ye's second performance in the Netherlands in June, Ye released the single Gemini Season and confirmed that a Bully Deluxe was releasing on June 19th. Gemini Season is a track that actually originates from the In a Perfect World sessions, which you can kind of tell by the content matter.
I'm afraid.
I wanna get kinky.
I am not the biggest fan of this song, and don't get me wrong, the beat is great, but the song is very short, and the lyrical content matter reminds me a lot of the horny posting that Ye was doing on Vultures 1 and 2. If it was included on the Bully Deluxe, it doesn't really feel like it belongs on Bully, so I'm very glad that Ye decided to keep it as a single and not include it on the deluxe. After Ye dropped Gemini Season, he retweeted a tweet implying that New Body, of all songs, would appear on the Bully Deluxe, and as we all know, that didn't happen. The amount of pump fakes that we've seen with this song is absolutely ridiculous, going like almost back a decade. Yandi, Jesus is King, Donda, Vultures, now Bully. I mean, it's ridiculous. He might as well just drop the song at this point, just even as a single. But he cares about it too a lot, apparently, but I'm getting off topic. And on June 19th, after the deluxe failed to drop on time, Ye revealed a new cover for the deluxe and actually dropped it. The deluxe radically changed the outlook for this album. It featured 2 brand new songs with OK, featuring Don Toliver, and Mission Control with Tony Williams. It also made various changes, including Lauryn Hill vocals on I Can't Wait, and brand new mixes, which breathed new life into this album. Ye also released a music video for King, directed by Bianca. As for my own personal opinion on the standard edition of Bully and the deluxe, I did enjoy them, and I feel like the standard edition of Bully was definitely a step up from the Vultures era, but I feel like at least the standard edition of Bully was kind of like a moment in time, and after a few months, it really felt like that moment had passed. Like, it didn't feel like a grandiose Ye album, if you kind of understand what I'm saying. Like, you know, I was there for Donda, I was there for Vultures 1, and when those albums released, I was going back and re-listening every day. Vultures 2 is kind of a different story because that album is objectively not good. But for Bully, as time went on, I was going back to the album less and less. It felt like, I don't know, I just didn't really feel the need to go back and listen because it felt like the album was incomplete. there was still plenty of AI on the album, and the mixing was not the best. Like Punch Drunk, for example, the mixing was way too loud compared to some of the other songs, and I just didn't feel the need to go back. It was the first time in a while that I listened to a Ye album and didn't have that feeling. But after the deluxe dropped, it changed my entire outlook on Bully. The new mixes, as I mentioned earlier, breathe completely new life into this album. They're great, the songs flow so much better now, and songs like this one here were re-recorded to feature no AI on the main vocals. There's still some debate about some punch-ins or whatever, but I haven't even noticed. Finally getting a Ye grail like this one here with real vocals was so great to listen to. Don't get me wrong, there's still some moments of bliss on this album. The first part of Preacher Man, for example, is still Quentin Miller's reference track from 2024, and there are still elements of AI on Bully, such as punch-ins on Highs and Lows and Last Breath, and there's debate about other sections of the album having some elements of AI vocals, but at this point, I barely notice, and from where we started in 2024, I will take it. I really do feel like the Bully Deluxe completed this album for me. It proves to me that after the release of A Vultures 2, Ye still has it in him to release good, even great music. Don't get me wrong, it's not a College Dropout, it's not a Graduation, it's not a Dark Fantasy, it's not a Pablo, but at this point in his career, who is asking him to make those kinds of albums again? The man is almost 50, and he's still giving us great music, and at the end of the day, that's all that matters. Everything for Ye at this point in his career is extra credit. He's already accomplished everything there is to accomplish discography-wise. As for the sales side of Bully, the album officially debuted at the number 2 spot on the Billboard 200 charts with 152,000 first-week sales. That consisted of 56,000 pure physical sales and 96,000 units sold in streaming numbers. Although the label Gamma did officially contest this, saying it actually sold 200,000 first week sales, which would have put it at number 1 on the Billboard charts, I'm going by official Billboard data, which says it debuted at number 2. When the Deluxe released, it sold around 32,000 units and helped get Bully back into the Billboard 200 charts. And as for streaming, Bully currently sits at over 500 million streams and has already surpassed Vultures 2 in terms of total streams, and Bully is getting about 2 million streams daily.
I'm not just like the rest of you. I'm stronger, I'm smarter, I'm better. I am better.
As a bonus section for this video, I thought I'd briefly go over almost every unreleased Kanye album to ever exist, as some Kanye unreleased albums are evolutions or de-evolutions of released albums, so I'm not going to go through those, but for the most part, we'll be going over every single unreleased Kanye album briefly, as some of these unreleased albums are almost as iconic as released Kanye albums. Good Ass Job was supposed to be the final installment in the Dropout trilogy. Not much is known about the project itself besides a few tracks that have leaked online and Ye's experimenting with autotune. Even after 808s, it was still supposed to be Good Ass Job until Ye decided to change the title to My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. Cruel Winter was going to be a sequel to Cruel Summer. It was scheduled to release in 2017 with Travis Scott set to executive produce it. We don't know why, but the project just never ended up happening. Yeezus 2 was supposed to be the sequel to Yeezus, as Kanye had a lot of material left over from the first album, but he eventually changed his mind about what he wanted the album and the project to be, and it would morph into the life of Pablo. Wolves was a collab album between Kanye and Drake. Announced in 2016, the album was worked on until 2017, when the two artists began to have a very public beef with each other, and the album was scrapped before 2018. Not much is known about the project besides what has been leaked, which is not much. We only have some instrumentals that were meant for the album. TurboGrafx-16 was going to be a video game inspired album set to release after the life of Pablo. While there were video games lined up ready to be sampled for the project, Once Kanye was released from the UCLA Medical Center, the project was scrapped. Love Everyone would eventually evolve into Ye, but the album was first going to be a completely different project in terms of delivery. The album cover, for example, was a picture of the surgeon believed to be responsible for Donda West's death, hence the idea of loving everyone no matter what. Good Ass Job was brought back in 2018 as a collab album between Kanye and Chance the Rapper, but the project was scrapped shortly after announcement. Yandhi is probably the most famous unreleased album of all time. Kanye kept promising that this damn thing was going to come out, but the offensive, inflammatory album would somehow evolve into Jesus is King. Yandhi was supposed to release in 2018, with collabs from the likes of Nicki Minaj and XXXTentacion. The album has thousands of leaks, and some people have even just decided to make their own version of Yandhi. Many tracks from this era have found their way onto other Ye projects, such as Salah on God, Everything We Need and Use This Gospel on Jesus is King, Hurricane on Donda, and Sky City on Vultures 2. Jesus is King 2 is a remix album of Jesus is King done by Dr. Dre. The entire album was completed and leaked online, yet for some reason didn't release. God's Country is an album that eventually morphed into Donda. Many of the songs from this era would be featured on Travis Scott's Utopia, such as Telekinesis and God's Country. War is a collab album with James Blake and Kanye, produced by No ID. Known for its softer, more vulnerable approach, it is a fan favorite in the Ye community for the chemistry that Blake and Kanye possess. However, Blake said that the project was never actually called War when they were recording it. War is just the name that fans gave it. The album was made during 2022 and was scrapped after Ye's appearance on InfoWars. Songs from the War era have made it onto other Ye projects such as Talking on Vultures 1 and this one here on Bully. One song from the War era made it onto a James Blake album as well, that being Through the High Wire. Ye Boo was the solo album Kanye worked on after War and prior to Vultures 1. It features a more serious tone as the album was made after the InfoWars aftermath and features songs that would eventually make their way onto the Vulture series, as well as other tracks that would end up being scrapped. Bad Bitch Playbook is an album that eventually evolved into Vultures 1. It's famous for having an initial 40-song tracklist that featured some holy grails from the Vultures era, such as Love, Love, Love. Vultures 3 was the promised end to the announced Vultures trilogy. While Ty Dolla $ign has teased this album from time to time, it looks like we will never get the third installment of the Vultures series. Cuck/In a Perfect World is the album that Kanye started working on during his 2025 mental breakdown. Ye was not in a good headspace, and this album that he was working on was a byproduct of that. While most of the album features Dave Blunt's rapping through an AI Kanye filter, some of it is actually Ye, as the two rap about controversial topics such as Nazism, racism, and cousin stuff. Infamous songs such as Cousins, World War III, and HH were intended for this album. The album leaked in its entirety in May 2025, with group buyers stating that the funds used to leak the project would be donated to the United States Holocaust Museum. Following Ye's recovery from his mental health breakdown, the album was scrapped. Cartier was a collab album between Kanye and Cardi, which Kanye tweeted about in 2025, stating that the album was no longer happening as Ye and Cardi were beefing at the time. Not much is known about this project. Well, that took a while, but we finally made it through every single Kanye album, pretty much ever, and some unreleased for you too. Thank you all for taking the time every day to enjoy this. It is always greatly appreciated, and I will see you on the flip side.